Hello, everybody. Welcome
Howdy,
to All
folks.
Caps.
Welcome to All Caps, and thank you so
Yeah.
much, EL Lyons. Now, I always it is Lyons, right? I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
Uh-huh.
not Lyons.
No, it's not Lyons, and
the
it's
quarter
just
friend, the quarter.
exactly how it looks.
We were talking before about French Canadian problems up here in Canada. I'm a quarter Quebecois technically, so I
Is
see
Quebecois.
that
it.
what they're called?
Technically,
Quebec?
well, French Canadian, if they're in like New Brunswick or different areas. For Quebec, they usually just say Quebecois, and so
Okay,
I'm used to
sure.
seeing Lyon or I'm used to seeing Lions, and it just automatically turns to Lyon in my mind. So I have to be
Oh.
careful whenever I see it.
Did you ever see that cartoon, My Gym Partner's a Monkey?
Don't think so.
The whole plot of the show is some kid has last name Lyons, just like yours, and he gets sent to the school for animals by mistake.
Oh, lovely. That actually sounds kind of fun. I could go to a school for animals.
That sounds like it'd be right up your alley.
I don't remember if I liked the show or not. It happened long enough ago.
Apparently
Well,
Canada has all the cartoons. Somebody told me about a
Oh
cartoon
yeah.
that features a raccoon in Canada that we just never had down here.
Well, there's some big animation studios up in Canada that are cheaper than American studios.
hmm,
Oh,
So a lot of animation is done in Canada.
I
I have no idea. I believe we have the big penguin one that I used to see as a kid, but raccoons, I can't say I know. Pengu, did you guys have Pengu in the U.S.?
Oh,
no
everyone has
Pengu.
Pingu.
Okay, yeah. So
I mean,
that's.
I was in the 90s, so I don't
I mean,
I'm
me
pretty
too.
sure
How old are you
Pingu is
guys?
British.
I'm 90s. I'm 92. So
Okay.
Tim's 92 years old. 92 years young, looking great for his age.
33. Thank you very much.
Still older.
Oh man, yeah. Well, anyways, thank you so much for hopping on. We've been going back and forth probably for close to what, a year and a half, 2 years now on X. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
It has
E.L.
been.
Lyons here, author of Starlight Jewel, and basically my grammar guru at this point.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I love this stuff. It is always nice to meet someone
It's
else
really
who
fun.
does too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I know
don't.
not everybody else thinks it's really fun, but it is really every time one of your grammar questions comes up, I'm like, "Ooh, I know this one." And then I'm like, "Will I sound pretentious if I come here and use the big words? Maybe
Nope.
I should just not this time." And then, but if I see a bunch of people who are just really, really wrong, sometimes I can't stop myself.
Hmm.
And then
It's always the best
and then
part.
end
Yeah,
up in an argument with somebody over something absolutely ridiculous that nobody cares about.
yeah. Most days I sit there waiting because there's maybe two or three people who will answer right away when you do a question on X about grammar. There's two or three people who will get it right early on and make you feel really dumb for even asking. And then there's about 20 people who, despite the right answer being above them, who will insist on giving the wrong answer in all possible variations underneath.
Well, that's the game.
But then E.L. Lyons shows up and sets it all straight. So that's what I always wait for at the end of the day.
A lot of the answers that are given, it's like they insist that there's one right answer that's like, completely correct in all situations, and it doesn't account for the differences between formal grammar and functional grammar or,
Hmm.
prescriptive versus descriptive. And those distinctions are kind of important when we're in fiction,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
where we're not really using APA or MLA.
And
Um,
it can get tough. I mean, I say this as someone who does, freelance editing for other authors. It can get, I have to intentionally shut myself down sometimes where I know something is technically wrong and still irks me in some primordial part of my
uh-huh.
soul. And yet I know that it works poetically and it works for their style. And I'll step back, I'm getting better, but it can be tough. It can be really tough sometimes.
It does get stressful when you're trying to think, like, is this poetic license actually poeticking? Like, is it really doing what it's supposed to do? Am I annoyed just
Yeah.
because it's wrong? And that
Well,
usually happens when it's wrong.
how often does grammar evolve? Has it kind of stopped since we've written everything down to such a degree?
No, I think, especially with social media now, it's like evolving further. And like, some grammarians, like Steven Pinker says, like it's gonna devolve, you know,
Mm,
um, or he talks about people thinking that it's gonna devolve, but it's not really devolve. It's just changing and adapting to like our current way of communicating, which is much faster paced and tone doesn't matter as much because we're communicating virtually so much that things that were important in communication, 50 years ago are no longer as important. People don't rely on them as much. They've learned how to utilize, words better versus
Mhm.
needing to indicate with commas and other punctuation as much.
Yeah. Well,
So,
it can be tricky too because I mean, I feel like every once in a while you get someone who will give a wrong answer, and you'll say, "Oh, I'm not so sure about that," and they'll say, "Oh, but grammar changes," and it's not even 10 people who agree with them. It's just them, and they're
yeah,
trying to
I can
push
do
through
what I
this
want
newest
because
thing.
grammar changes, man.
grammar changes. I just
Grammar is something we
changed
made
it.
up.
Yeah, that's my favorite response, and it's it comes, I think, with almost every grammar question I put out there. I see you put them out, and almost without failure, someone says that when they get it wrong.
Yeah, there's like some responses that like I just don't even know how to address. Like I don't know how to respond to certain things, so I'll tell myself I'm gonna reply later when I come up with a good reply, and then
Don't.
I just never have anything left to say to that person with that answer because a trend has to. Of course, grammar changes, but it changes in like large trends, and at least a certain amount of people have to use a word incorrectly for it to get a new definition.
Yeah.
And when it does, that new definition sticks. And, there's only like 10 people left who are insisting that literally doesn't mean, mean literally. Um,
One that
it's,
one that drives me crazy is the word decimated.
oh,
Mm,
yeah, because it's not no longer. The original meaning was like 10%, I
Yeah,
think.
10% destroyed. Now it means obliterated. It's been
Yeah.
decimated.
yeah. Yeah, like that's the sort of thing I would never become a stickler about. When I see someone get a little too hung up on that, I'm thinking, I'm here for clarity. If I'm confused by your writing, that's
Yeah.
when I jump in. That's my job.
Mhm.
My job is to say, okay, this didn't land as you intended, either for clarity or for effect.
Mhm.
It's not to be a smart ass. Well, maybe smart ass, yes. Smart snob. It's not a snob. Smart ass, yes, not a snob. There we go. That's a good distinction.
Ah.
Yeah. So, tell us a bit more about. I have it. Yes, I pulled it
Yeah,
up.
get out the book.
There we go. We've got the
I
cover.
write
I'm gonna
books
put
too.
it.
I don't just talk about grammar.
We'll
Well,
use the grammar to
we've
write the
got some
book.
more fun in store for that too. But yeah, so Starlight Jewel here, which I have read and absolutely loved. I've told a few people. I think 2024 is when I read it. It was easily my favorite book that year. Just now, I read mostly indie that year,
Aw, thank
but I
you.
mean, even trad pub. Not it was easily the best book I read that year, and I'm not just saying that because it was actually edited well and crisp. Like
I'm sure the editing helps on
that
some
helps.
level, but
It helps
I've read
me.
some amazing books that aren't edited, like, at all.
Yeah.
I've read them and I'm like, "Okay, they literally don't know how to use a comma. It's okay, I'm still engaged, it's still fun."
Yeah. I read one of those this year and I pushed through roughly, and this author probably even knows who they are. I don't think they're in the chat. That might
Ooh.
be later for reasons. But so if you see this, I'm talking about you, and I'm not going to single you out, but and
You know. We won't
you know,
signal you out, but you know.
you know. First half of this book, and it was a relatively long book, and oh my,
You're narrowing this down quick.
like the editing, there were enough major, and it was just very regular too. It wasn't just a few blips. It was a very regular, punctuation errors, spelling errors, missing words, unfinished clauses. It just hits you in the face, and then suddenly about halfway through,
Ed.
yeah. No, we'll make fun of you for your commas later, Ed. Actually, I have. Speaking of Ed here, I
Oh
have
boy.
Sister of the Dead right here.
Oh, nice, that one
Yeah,
was so
so
fun.
I've only read
I'm
the
still
first so
trying to
far.
forgive Ed for what he did, aside from the grammar, but, plot-wise as well.
Oh, don't tell me that, because now I have to brace myself. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But no, trust me, Ed, it is not you. I can say that. Loved your book too, but you were competing against Starlight Jewel in 2024. So I'm sorry, but that's a tough break, man.
I mean, if I had to choose between the books, I would choose Daughter of the Beast because it was so fun,
It was a great
and,
book. It was a very fun book.
yeah, I mean, I love the hyena women, and Zen is, like, you know, like me as a child. She's like the most relatable little feral gremlin child I can imagine. She just
Yeah.
wants to like punch everything and hit people with sticks. And I think that was really fun for me.
Well, I think more than once I've recommended Daughter of the Beast to you, Isaac. 'Cause
Yes, it's on my list actually. It's in my shopping cart.
yeah, it needs to be there. It's here, I will switch back to full. Whoops. There we go. That was weird. Yeah, but yeah, no, you would like it because you love all things Redwall and animal focus, and that was a very
There are no
fun book.
humans.
Yeah,
There are no
humans at all.
humans?
Yeah, there are no humans. It's like a niche genre of I still don't know if I'm saying niche right.
I say
Niche.
niche. You're good. I guess okay. So
It's a
there's
quiche
another here.
genre.
We've
It's
already
very
hit one.
quiche.
We've already hit a.
We lost him for a second, but I think he was.
I get confused when I hear.
Oh,
You
yeah.
lost
Okay,
me.
so
And I
niche
always
or
say I'm gonna
niche?
look it up after the podcast because I end up saying niche, whatever every time I'm in a podcast. I'm like, I'll look it up after, and then I never do. I don't know how to pronounce anything because I just am a hermit and I don't actually have to say these words out loud ever.
I'm
But humanless fantasy is like
humanless.
a niche genre that I really like, and like I've been collecting, and there's so few books in adult fantasy and sci-fi that don't have humans in them, but Daughter of the Beast and Far Removed are definitely two of my favorites, and they have no
Gotcha.
humans. And
I
that's
gotta check it
like,
out now. Yeah.
Yeah, because Far Removed. That's by by
C.B.
co
Lansdale.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another one that just kind of blew me out of the water. Amazing book. Have you read it yet?
No, I haven't. So that's very much on my TBR.
It
Yeah.
It has beautiful prose. I mean, beautiful dark prose. Horrible, horrible story. Like it's in the best of ways.
It's absolutely horrible. I loved it. I loved it. Prose is gore. It was horrible. Oh, I loved it.
It was. I mean, like you just read something and you're like, oh my goodness, it's terrible. I want to keep going. Yeah.
Well, my
It's
last
very
indie
fun.
read was oh come on, it was Michael R. Fletcher's She Dreams in Blood. So I think I'm braced. I think. But
It's horrible in a different way than I think Michael Fletcher's writing. I've only read a first chapter from his book from Spiffno. And heard things about his writing. So I'm pretty sure I've got the vibe for Fletcher. Horrible in a completely different way. This is like feminine horrible, which
okay.
again, another like niche subgenre that I like is when things are like like more subtle horrible, not just like dismemberment and fun things like that. And I like that grimdark section too, but I like this, feminine psychological horror
I was gonna
as well.
say psychological then.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's up my alley too, absolutely. Sometimes I need a break from the yeah, if anything, I've been nervous about trying grimdark. I think my first full-fledged grimdark was probably Michael R. Fletcher. I
I mean,
usually
you've read Abercrombie, right?
no, I haven't.
You're
Nope, not yet.
That's so sad.
You haven't broken out the Crombie?
Shocking. It was like, I mean, I haven't watched Indiana Jones, so I guess I've got like movie catching up to do, but I'm always shocked when somebody
That's
has
probably like fundamental right there.
Yeah.
I haven't
Indiana
watched The
Jones.
Godfather. I haven't watched like half the movies that people think are iconic. But for Abercrombie, he's like the big name from like early grimdark, him and George R. R. Martin.
Yeah.
And like now I read things that people say are grimdark, and they're actually like so much more violent. And like there's more violence and stuff. Whereas his was really just kind of grim and also very humorous. Like those books are so funny. And like Glotka is like the best like humor in like a fantasy book, and they're not really as dark as you would expect if you're entering grimdark from other places like ZB Steele. I know has blown up. He's gotten really popular in the last like couple months, and really any like Fletcher, they're a lot more violent. Like those stories are a lot more violent and brutal than Abercrombie's like original grimdark trilogy, which was really not that bad.
I mean, that's good. Okay, that makes me a little more willing to try it then, because I'm like you. I shy away from, I definitely I've seen that in a few books I've read that don't call themselves grimdark, and it's too much shock value for me. I have to step back.
Yeah, if it's like just shock value violence, it doesn't Like, I wanna be emotionally affected, like, when there's physical violence, and if it's just, like, descriptively, like,
Mm,
trying
Yeah.
to evoke something, I don't care. I'm just like, "Gross, why?" You know? Like
I don't want to
like
be grossed out. I want to feel things.
yeah, exactly. I wanna feel horrified for that person and, just basically, like, I enjoy brutal writing when it's emotionally evocative, not when it's just like it's like watching a video of plain violence of somebody that you don't know.
mm,
Like,
yeah.
when it doesn't have that emotional aspect to it and it's not, like, important to the story, then you're like, "Why is this happening? Why did this come up on my feed?" And there have been things, you're scrolling Instagram and, like, you come across some horrific video, like 10 are coming into my brain right now, but and you don't know why they're there, what's even happening, and you're just like, "Okay, that was too much." And that's how I
Yep.
That
feel
was
when
someone
I
dying on
just shock
camera.
value.
Did not
Yes.
need that. Yeah. Well,
Tell me if you
another
guys can hear this.
no, nothing.
You didn't?
No.
I found the right way to say niche, and this blue woman says niche.
Niche?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so we're close enough.
I
I'll
I
accept
will
that
always
as
be
long as it's
niche.
not
It
like
ain't
niche.
niche.
Not been saying it.
Yeah. Niche just doesn't do
Niche.
it for me. I get like so many people say it that way, fair, but it's niche and it's quiche, and that's one that those are the hills I'll die on. Um, okay, well, another thing that for me now I've discovered I have more of a tolerance than I maybe thought I did, but
Mhm.
something we've talked about before. So and this brings us back to Starlight Jewel, both in terms of violence, but then in terms of this spice versus steam. That's something where I mean, yeah, okay, I can handle some spice. I can. I usually don't read it, but I can handle it. But like Starlight Jewel has a I would say a good dose of steam. I think that's how you've defined it before, and I think that is fair.
Yeah, it's got some steamy moments that I feel are, like you kinda need those, like, for given the content of the book and what
Yeah.
happens, but I'm so uncomfortable with, like, actual spice, like, I will close the door. Like, you
Mm,
will never see me writing or reading an open door book because, like, there is a certain point where, like, they need privacy, I don't want anything to do with that.
yeah.
And, yeah, but the steam was kind of essential for I mean, the conspiracy scene at the beginning, like, when they're
Yeah.
in the garden and they're planning things, like, literally the steam is the cover for how they are getting away with the plan.
Yeah.
So, it wouldn't work if they were doing something else because she's literally like a prostitute,
Yeah.
and there's
Essentially.
only one like, she has one job here, and she's gotta at least pretend like she's doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of unavoidable in that scene, and I think there's, like, one other steamy scene. There's
Yeah.
one kind of funny steamy scene
Yes. I
with
remember.
the
Funny
with
steam.
yeah, with the fallen star where she's, like, basically, like, drunk because she got poisoned.
Yep.
Um, but,
That was good.
yeah, and then, like, one more that's just, like, emotional, and, like, then you've got people labeling it, like, romantasy, and there's really only, like, I'm pretty sure those are the only 3 steamy scenes in the whole book, and
Yeah.
they're, like, on different countries, like, they're, like, across the map from each other for, like, half the book,
Okay.
and so I really don't think it qualifies as romantasy,
No.
and,
How would
It has
you
strong romantic themes along with
Yeah,
a big punch to the gut, but
how would you describe romantasy? Because to me, when I hear that, I think it's fantasy and romance mixed together. And it sounds like you have
um
some romantic elements. So what keeps yours from romantasy?
well, for one, it doesn't have a happily ever after,
mm,
um,
Oh, so romantasy
and so
requires happy ever after.
it does, and I am so afraid that, like, the actual romantasy fans are gonna get a hold of the book and then, like, think that I was advertising it as romantasy and completely destroy me as a human being because they are
Mm.
vicious over there. They're
yeah.
they're a little bit rabid, which all the power to them. I'm so glad that they defend their genre and what they want from it. But yeah, I don't have a happily ever after. At the end of Starlight Jewel, it's not a happily for now either.
Mhm.
Um, and I still don't know how I'm gonna end the entire series yet. So I'm really reluctant to tell people, like, it's gonna be okay. Like, I don't know.
So are you towing that grimdark line?
I think it's been described as having like a splash of grimdark, which I think
Okay.
is accurate. And if you're
Hmm.
looking at like the strict like qualifiers from like Grimdark magazine, how they describe grimdark, it qualifies. But when you
Okay.
read it, I don't think it feels like that.
Yeah. No.
Just because of my writing style. Like
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a very subtle like I don't like to overstate things. Um and I don't write like Abercrombie or ZB Steele or Ed. like
Yeah.
like I just write much more subtle. I don't know how to describe it. Like subtle and feminine, and it's still dark. There's still all the same violent and dark themes, possibly even darker than in any of those books. For sure, darker than the first Blade themes, which really all it had dark was like the guy's life sucked.
Okay.
Like there wasn't really anything dark about the world. It was just a brutal world and like the guy's life sucked. So in some respects it's a lot darker than something like Abercrombie, but it's written in such a way that it looks Bob. It looks pretty when you first look at it, and everything looks lovely until you start actually thinking about it, and then you're like, "Oh, well, that's actually messed
Yeah.
up. Those are actually prostitutes. This isn't actually just fun ball gowns." And they're being trained when they're children, and that's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the book, like the main character is like kind of realizing, "Hey, my life is actually not perfect here. Like I'm not ruining a perfect life. My life was already screwed up." And so it's different. Like I'm reluctant to call it grimdark because grimdark readers, I feel like, go in with an expectation of a
Mhm.
certain writing style and certain themes and things that just aren't there. It's very dark. It's just not dark in the same way.
I think you
What
hit it. I mean, you hit it with just hinting at uh, Joe Abercrombie's the element of the characters, especially the main characters. If their life just radically sucks, the world sucks, everything about it. That's how it was explained to me at one point, and I thought that doesn't have much appeal to me at all. So that's partly why I stayed away from a lot of these grimdark books. I like dark. I like with fantasy. I like hints of horror when dealing with the element of evil, and I like dark themes in the midst of an overall story. I find it's just where my fictional tastes are at the moment. Um,
Mhm.
so I would definitely call yours dark. Now I've read other writing of yours, and so I know I like some other things of yours I've seen. I can say probably maybe a little closer to what I would call grimdark, but yeah, Starlight Jewel. No, I would say dark, romantic, not romantic, but dark romantic fantasies. I feel like something's missing there, but yeah, dark romantic fantasy, right?
Yeah, it's hard to, and I forgot when it's not just the happily ever after when talking about romantasy versus like fantasy. It's also like what role the romance plays in the story.
Mm,
And like with Starlight Jewel, there are like 10,000 other relationships in in the story that are like more central. Like her brother is more central to the story than like the romance guy.
yeah,
Her like sister starlings, like the other prostitutes, um, they're more central to the story. The romance does like push the plot in some places and it affects the plot in some places, but it never really affects her overall decision making.
Mm.
And
yeah,
it's not like she is like doing things because she's in love. And they never even say I love you. And there's
mm,
no like I'm gonna what is it? Touch her and die. Like the
fair,
tropes
yeah,
that romantasy has are all very dramatic and based on two people who are so in love with each other that the rest of the world does not matter, or they're willing to give up things for each other. And that's
yeah,
not the case when you're looking at romantic fantasy or fantasy that has romance in it. Then it just happens to be that there is a romance and it's affecting the plot in some way, which is the case with Starlight Jewel because she'll literally still kill him if it comes down to it. Like she does.
yeah.
That's
I'm
not.
fond of you, but I might kill you if it suits my needs.
Yeah, I mean it's so it's not it's not that kind of romance, and it doesn't have that level of drama, I think. Like, I tried to
Okay.
read, what's the big one? The Sarah J. Maas book. I tried to read that. It's the Court
No.
of
Oh
Thorns
yeah,
and
Court of
Roses,
Throne. Crap.
and
Yeah.
it was pearl clutching for me. Just skimming, like, the first half of it, I was like, "Okay, I'm definitely not writing in that genre," because I was confused. I had never heard of romantasy before I started looking into publishing,
Mhm.
and then that kind of clarified for me. Like, if you just skim the first half of the book, then you'll understand what romantasy is versus fantasy, because it's it's different. It's different over there.
Yeah.
They
So no Sarah J. Maas and Fourth Wing. Who did that one? That's the other big one, and I always forget the author there too. Anyways, yeah. So those are the two I always hear about, and people keep telling me, just give it a try. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Try it
Samples
out.
I've
It's just a
seen.
little bit of meth. Just a little bit.
I've seen people talking about the plot of Fourth Wing, and, like, the magic system does not make sense to me, and some of the plot points, especially, like, the spicy plot points, sound literally horrific to me. Like,
Yeah.
they sound like, "Okay, I would not be able to be in that room. I don't need to be there."
Yeah.
That's a
No.
book for other people who are not me. Rebecca Yarros. Yeah, that's who it
Rebecca
is.
Yarros. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
At
Here's
What
least someone has a
inspired
brain. They
Starlight
do it.
Jewel?
yeah, there's a good one.
What inspired Starlight Jewel? What made you want to write this story?
Oh, lots of things. So, like, pieces, like, of a story just kind of come together over time, and I had been writing a sci-fi, and then I was reading, like, the Cinderella out of, like, the Brothers Grimm version,
Mm.
and I was like, "I still hate this." Like, I always hated Cinderella, the Disney one, as a kid. I thought it was just the dumbest plot in the world. Like, he just doesn't recognize her, and so he's trying to shoe on different
Without a
people.
glass
Like, it's
shoe.
just kind of a ridiculous,
Well,
you
she
know
changed her hair, wearing something different. I mean, that's impossible to keep track of.
It should have been more relatable for me, because I can't recognize anybody either, and, like, but, you
No.
know, it was just kind of a silly story, and the Brothers Grimm version is much better. It's not nearly that ridiculous, and, but it's still kind of a silly story, and I hoped that the Brothers Grimm version would be better, and it wasn't really that much better. And then I started doing research on Cinderella, and I saw that there were actually older Cinderella stories than the Brothers Grimm
Oh, yeah.
version.
Yeah,
There's
Brothers
tons
Grimm, they
of
didn't
them.
really write them. They
No, they just
collected
kind of,
them.
yeah,
They went and
but
they talked to old ladies in villages like,
the
"What? Tell us the
Bushkas.
Cinderella." Yeah.
They collected them, but even from, like, Egypt and stuff, there are Cinderella stories that are older, where, like, an eagle drops a sandal, and,
Mm.
there's just all sorts of stories about this shoe, but they all involve a really good woman who's, like, innocent, and I was like, I just wanna ruin that. I wanna make that horrible. I wanna make this the worst Cinderella story ever, and
I
so
think
I
that's our clip
started.
for the night right there. I just want to ruin that.
I'm gonna take that and just stick it with a stick.
Uh, that's how it started, and then it got out of hand. Like, you start writing, and you put on your inspirational music, and I was in the car, and I was listening to the radio, and a song came on that I hadn't heard by In This Moment, called Roots. And before, she had just been a prostitute assassin. And then this Roots song came on, and I was like, "You know what? What if I made her a Spriggan?" And I don't know where that came from. Like, there's the song is not actually about tree people, but that's where my brain went when I heard Roots. And so then I just started, like, the wheels started turning. And I obviously love ecology and, like, botany, and I love the forest generally. And so I was always researching tree stuff anyway, just for fun. And
Tree stuff.
tree stuff. And just growing up, I spent, like, most of my childhood in the woods. Like, I just
Mhm.
loved being in the woods, and my dad loved being in the woods, and he always made me kind of, like, love the woods, but simultaneously be, like, afraid of the woods. Like, he would tell me about all the
That's how you
scary
approach the
things.
woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we would go after hearing about all the scary things, and, like, he would, like there would be, like, a tree creaking, and he would tell me that it was a monster, and I was like, "Okay, this is exciting."
There's a monkey over there. That's what that noise was.
That sounds like heaven.
Where
So,
did you grow up?
Beaver Dam, Virginia?
Virginia, Beaver Dam, Virginia.
That is a great name for a place. My
My
God.
street name was Wildlife Run.
You know what?
Wow.
Okay,
We
that
did have a
explains
beaver
everything.
in the backyard. It was appropriately named. There was a higher population of beavers to people at one point.
Wow.
It's a
Yeah,
great place.
I was expecting. I really, really was looking forward to the backstory of Spriggans and finding out it's just a song. I'm like, okay, this makes more sense. Now I'm getting the backstory I needed.
Well, I didn't know too much. Well, there's not really all that much to know about Spriggans. So they're like it's a folklore. I think it's Welsh. It's one of
Celtic or
the not Celtic. The W name. I feel like my brain is. I don't think it's Welsh. I think it's the other W name that's over there in the UK.
one of
But
those.
there's like one statue over there of a Spriggan, and they have some Spriggans. So they are part of the Fae, but not the Celtic Fae. Like the Fae is there's a lot of countries involved in the Fae folklore.
Yeah.
Wales.
Wales. There we go. Well,
I don't know. Are
Isn't
the
that-
Wales Welsh?
Wales.
is that Welsh? I
No,
feel like
Cornish. Cornish. It's not even
Cornish.
a W.
that-
My brain. Sorry.
There we go.
They got
I
that
forget.
chicken over there. They got
I don't know why I
Spriggin
was
and
thinking
chicken.
But
That's
yeah,
so
it's part
funny.
of Cornish folklore.
Got
And
it.
I don't know why I was thinking W. That like my brain was just broken. But anyway, so they have some Fae folklore as well, in addition to the Celtic folklore. But they're different. Like they're not the same. Like just kind of Scottish and Irish. There's some overlap there, but it's not exactly the
different,
same.
How much
So-
of that did you put into your story, and how much did you make up?
Almost none of it. I put it. I mean, I didn't even spell the name the same. So
Okay.
but they were tree people, and they were tree people that I thought some people would vaguely recognize.
Mm.
I don't know if you played. I can't remember. I think it was,
Skyrim.
yeah, Skyrim
Yeah,
had
it's Skyrim.
had the Spriggan
freaking
enemies in the
Spriggans.
woods, and
Yeah.
those Spriggans are much more magical than the Spriggans in my book. For anybody who hasn't played, I think like there's some Spriggans that like shoot fire and they like float
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah,
Yes,
it's not
yes.
like that. But they kind of I wanted the inspiration of how they looked versus how actual Cornish Spriggans look, which are like hideous little monsters with big heads. And I didn't want that image. I wanted, the kind of elegant sort of. No,
Yeah.
there is no smut in the story. There's only a little bit of steam, no spice at all.
It's not romantasy.
Little
It's
bit of
not
steam,
romantic.
no
There are
spice.
prostitutes, but no spice.
Yeah.
Which is, I know, very niche.
It's very unique.
Yeah, you put yourself in a bit of a corner. You constantly have to tell people, okay, there are prostitutes.
They go, wait,
but no
so
spice."
how many prostitutes in the story? And there's no Steve?
A lot?
There's only Steve?
Yeah, it's a hard sell, I know, for people, because like lots of people want spiceless fantasy. Those same people usually don't want the prostitutes. But I have been told by a reviewer that I did the escorts in the least weird way possible, which I think
Yeah.
is a big compliment,
It is,
and
yes.
yeah, so I have that going for me.
I
But
feel like when I was reading it, that was it felt like it drove a lot of the plot, but it felt like a very small part of who and what they were. There are also thieves and assassans, and there's a lot
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on there. I was
Well, I
wrapped
mean,
up in that.
if
The
you're in
intrigue
that-
of
If you're in
of
that
their-
old
of the
timey
company.
fantasy setting, that's like that
yeah,
was part
it's
of the
just
culture.
like another branch of, the criminal underground.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it just happens that the main character is in like all three of those professions,
Yeah.
and then she uses the one profession, in
Maybe a little more
an
than the
effective
others.
way.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's so then I added the Spriggan stuff, and world building is like my favorite part of the
Mhm.
writing.
Mm.
And so even though like it started out as like Cinderella and maybe I'll make them Spriggans, I just went ham world building. obviously, if anybody has read it, you know that there's like 10 different Spriggan gifts, and then there's other gifts that are hinted at. And each of the gifts like has like drawbacks and strengths, and they're all based in biology. Like I looked up, so I got to do so many fun rabbit holes of research on like microchimerism and like, you know, just fun stuff for me that never actually makes it into the book because it's a medieval setting, so you can't actually say microchimerism or anything literally. But I had a lot of fun. You know, I had like 2 brain overlays. So like the human brain and then like bird brains and then the human brain and wolf brains. And that's how I determined the personalities and the like skill, like which Spriggan ability. They're not like magical abilities. They're just like keen senses, basically. There's like a couple of them
Interesting.
that are a little bit more far-fetched.
So is bird brain and wolf, is this like an actual, is this your system you've made, or is this like a INFJ system that exists?
No, like real birds, how their brains work and which part of like so which part of their
Oh, so this
brain
is real
has like
science. This is
yeah,
This is
real
background
science.
Okay,
research. This
okay.
is the research
I
behind it.
thought
Research.
I thought you're being metaphorical. Some people are bird brained, some people are wolf brained.
No, it's not. Yeah, I know. I understand how you got there, but I don't even understand that realm of thinking.
Yeah.
But no, real bird brains and like where their navigation system is
Okay,
versus like
yeah.
what makes them migrate and what parts of the brain would light up, you know, when a scientist looks at it with some kind of scanny thing.
So
And
you have bird characters in the book, is what you're saying.
no.
No. So I thought of this before our chat, and it totally slipped my mind. But I meant to go and try and find the link to. Didn't you designed a personality test
Oh, yeah.
for people to see what gift they're like? I love that. I thought that was one of the best book marketing things I have ever seen. It was just brilliant. Having
thought it
read the
was
book,
super
I
fun.
loved it. I having read the book, I instantly had to go and figure out what I was and where, you know, what gift I was
Nice.
supposed to have. It was great. Like that was genius. It really works.
It was a way for me to kind of like share like the research rabbit holes that you know you don't get to put in the book. And, you
Yeah.
know, you do all
Yeah.
this research and you know it shapes the book and it shapes the characters, and it's literally how I made my character sheets when I was starting out. And so that was really fun for me. But then like people never actually get to see that. But this was a way for me to kind of like bridge that gap and like you can see like what you would be with like what random genetic assignment you would have if you were half Spriggan.
Yeah.
So
it was
I thought it
very
was
fun. It was like taking you know, a personality X-Men quiz and finding out what X-Men power you're supposed to have.
That's
Right? Like
cool.
it was yeah, that's genius. I still absolutely love that. Yeah, maybe we should find the link to that, throw that in underneath after this. So anyone watching the replay, we'll try and have that for you. I think if it's still live. I assume it's still live, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have it for
brilliant.
like a year. They felt bad for me. So I was looking for a quiz that would allow me to do this type of personality quiz that you could come up with multiple answers,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
apparently is really hard because I went to like all the free quiz sites and you couldn't make this kind of quiz. And then there was one quiz site that you could, and it was paid though if you had more than like 9 questions or like more than like a few questions, and I had
Interesting.
9. And so then they sent me an email after that was like I had like already started making the quiz before I realized that it wouldn't be enough.
Mm.
And the email was like, you know, why didn't you end up using our site? And so I complained, obviously, because I love complaining. And they actually answered. The dude was just like, oh yeah, that sucks, man. I'm sorry you're broke, but here's a year free. I hope if you're a famous author one day, you'll like shout us out. So
That's awesome.
me randomly complaining actually like did something for once. So I got a year free of like
What
having a
happened
quiz.
was, here's what actually happened. That developer has been watching, he's been coding for months. Finally someone uses it. He goes, "Oh, a user." And they stop. Like, "Oh, they stopped. Oh no, why'd they stop? Is it broken?" So they wanted to hear from you if it was broken, but you just said it to it. "Oh, let her use it. Let someone use it. Give us data."
Yeah. I'm sure
Well,
it is frustrating. You never get any like feedback on like your products. It's kind of like book reviews. You know, you write it and you just want to know if people like hate it.
yeah.
And like everybody always ignores those emails because you assume that nobody actually reads them. I actually texted back to complain about a different thing. I can't even remember what it was now when they sent like the text thing, and it was a real person apparently.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
That's
Slightly
awesome.
embarrassing. So I have stopped answering those with my random rambling complaints. So
Well, I was gonna say, so
yeah.
you ripped into them is what you're saying. You just
I
absolutely
think
treated
I
them
said
like
something kind of sarcastic, like, well, like it didn't freaking work, like Bob, you know? And then like a real person was like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. Like we do try." Like I was like, "Oh my god, this person is so nice." Like I thought I was being mean to a robot, and I was not. I was being mean to a person. So
That's really funny.
Often
Yeah.
it begins as a robot, and the robot takes the real problems. So hey, this is person you should talk to, and they probably go, oh, okay, give me the details, robot.
Yeah,
Robot
what happened
passes
is
off
you
the notes.
intimidated the robot you were initially talking to, and so they
it needed
transferred
Well,
backup.
you proved to the robot you were real, for one. Robot stops with the robots. Robot knew you were a person with an actual issue, and the developer was very excited to talk to you.
I'll take that. Hopefully they were happy to talk to me generally. I think I can be really unpleasant to talk to. You know, because I am a little bit complainy and rambly and particular. I think I'm the worst person to work with. Like my interior artist probably hated me by the time we got done with that interior art project, just because I was like a little bit more bark, a little bit more bark. And if you've never tried to draw bark, it sucks. It sucks
takes a
really
long
bad.
time,
It's
yeah.
awful. Yeah. So
Well, that was
I
going
do
to be
think
one of my next questions was about the sequel, and then yeah, so let's get to talking about that awesome art that you revealed. But you mentioned for the sequel, so for where the story goes overall, you said you don't entirely know, but how far are you into you're editing the sequel now, right?
yeah, I'm editing and I've been editing for like
A while.
a while.
Mm.
I was
That's
done with
exciting.
the
It's
writing
coming.
shortly after I published like Starlight Jewel. It didn't take me long to write the first draft. But yeah, I've been editing for like I think it's been like 2.5 years now.
Oh wow.
Wow, yeah.
So
Wow. I mean, that's awesome. But the editor in me is like, yes, oh, this is going to be so good. And then the reader in me is like, I want it now. What are you doing?
How much of
yeah.
that is are rewrites and multiple drafts? And
I think I've rewritten each chapter at least twice.
okay,
But it's not been like all at the same time. It's not like with Starlight Jewel where I literally had to start from scratch and rewrite it twice.
mhm.
Like it's more like I'm going through it and I'm like, oh great, I need to rewrite this chapter now. And I need to rewrite this chapter now. And there's probably like a couple chapters that have had to be rewritten like 3 or 4 times. And
Yeah.
then some that have only had to be rewritten twice.
Hmm.
And then a lot of small plot changes. A lot. And you know, it's just kind of like everyone who has read Starlight Jewel has pretty much loved it. There's only like a couple people who really didn't like it and left a review about that. I mean, I'm sure there's other people, and I wish they would leave a review. I don't mind when people smack talk my book. I'll smack talk it, but you know, that kind of puts a little bit of pressure on you. Like if everybody had one starred it, it would be
Mhm.
completely different because I'd be like, all right, well, I'll just publish it. How it is, who cares? Everybody ate the first one anyway. Might as well hurry up and get on to the next project. And so it does put a little bit more pressure on it that people actually liked it,
Hmm.
which is, you know, kind of unexpected. Like I wouldn't have published it if I didn't like it. But, you
Fair.
know, expecting other people to like a book about tree prostitutes is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
You
It's
know, it
more
just
than
seemed
that.
kind of weird and like not very easy to market, and then people actually liked it. So but yeah,
Well,
so
if
now
I
whenever I
imagine if you approach people say, "Hey, it's a book. It's a Cinderella retelling about tree prostitutes."
well, it's
I
not
think
even a
that probably
retelling.
Not definitely not a Cinderella retelling. Yeah,
inspired by or
it's a Cinderella smackdown.
okay, it's everything that's wrong about Cinderella.
Yeah, corrected. It is a corrected and darkly improved. I don't even know. That doesn't even know. No, it's not
Do you
Cinderella.
have the ugly stepsisters cutting off parts of their feet to shove into the shoe?
No, actually I just decided to leave the sisters out after like the first chapter. They just never come back because they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like
They do the front
revenge
foot
is the
chopping
Lord's. Who
stuff.
cares what happens to the sisters? So I just left them to the
All right.
wind. You know, they're just gone. And so so yeah, it's not really a retelling at all. And there's really only like 2 parts of the book, like 2 scenes where there's like Cinderella stuff. Because like
Right.
I said, it got out of hand. Like it started
Mhm.
out with me wanting to ruin Cinderella. And then I just got really distracted with Spriggan stuff and brain overlays and, trying to figure out what personalities each Spriggan hybrid would have based on, like what brain parts, what genetic like random lottery they got. And then I got distracted with the plot because I made the Ald tree, and he was just such a like big character in my mind. And once you get a big character in your mind, they sort of take over the story in a
Mhm.
way, and then it's no longer about Cinderella at all. And there just happens to be a glass slipper in the book. And
Glass
Can't
slippers
confirm, and it's
they're
great.
special.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, they're kind of special. And I made one of the gifts makes it practical.
Okay.
Like it's not
Yeah.
practical to run in a glass slipper unless you have like this certain musculature and like so quick step and soft step are two of the gifts, and they're exactly like they sound. Like you walk quiet, but I did that with like extra padding and soft tissue in the muscles and legs, and so it would make that remotely possible, not exactly practical, but still better than than just a regular human wearing the shoe without any kind of reason they should be able to walk in it without killing their feet. But
Yep.
yeah, so it's not retelling at all.
Yeah, I can confirm it is not. So
Gotcha.
speaking about the sequel, which so Ostringer's Wrath, right? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I have it written here, but I'm really excited for that. I really am. And it was what 3 days ago you released the first piece of interior art.
Yes.
Yeah, how many are planned?
There's two,
Two
and
total.
one is also going to be on the cover, but it's going to be a silhouette on the cover and then a detailed version inside.
Very
So
fun. Okay, well, let's show off the first one because yeah, this blew me away. We've got it here. There we go. Yeah, let me see if I can move that over. I can make it. I probably can't make it much bigger. Nope. It's basically I
yeah.
can remove us or I can put that in the middle. But yeah, check that out. Artist name. What's the artist name again?
Charlotte Hussey.
Charlotte Hussey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just absolutely incredible.
She
This was
is so talented.
yeah.
Like, I was blown away that I could actually get this, and,
Mm,
it was just she was the perfect artist for this series. I don't know if you've seen her other work, but she did this piece called Oracle, and it has, like, a woman with, like, fungus growing out of her face,
mm.
and, as soon
Fungus
as I
woman.
saw that on my feed, I was like, "I want that." For sure. Like, and that's perfect for, a book about hybrids who are like half tree people.
Yep.
And also, like, everything about her work was perfect for this series because it was dark, it was feminine, but it was also gritty and it looked horrible. Like, it looked like she had a disease. And
Mm,
so that's perfect for what I wanted for Baj, who's like, a central character in the book who's not really incredibly present, but
Hmm.
the entire world centers around her, and Axley's world centers around her. So she's not the main character, she's the main character to the main character.
yeah.
And I really wanted the art of her because I felt like she deserved it. She's the best character in the book. So
Dave is throwing a fit here. Yeah. We
I'm
did
Well,
talk
sorry.
about
maybe
raccoons.
the raccoons are waiting just off screen. They're about to jump on the sleeping Spriggan.
See, this is where I
Well,
miss the snack bar. I really do. It used to be
I
my
know.
near daily dose of raccoon therapy, and it's just I had it pinned on my profile. I was sending. It's just sad.
Yeah,
Ah,
I know. I miss Hank and his entire family. He was such a good raccoon, and I'm hoping that we make new raccoon friends whenever we find our forever home.
yeah.
It would probably not be polite to invite the raccoons here. Like we did end up taking the snack bar, the physical snack bar with us, but they have chickens here,
Ah,
and so the raccoons don't
Raccoons
seem
do
like
love chickens.
they do love chickens.
they really
I know
love.
that from experience.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So,
Oh yeah.
we haven't invited any raccoons to this current residence while we're like looking for our permanent house, but we do have squirrels.
Fair. Yeah.
There's
Didn't I see Timmy the squirrel? I
Yeah,
thought,
Timmy. Since he was our best squirrel, I named him Timmy because I know so many good Tims. And there's you and Timothy Wolf.
yeah.
But
That's
but he's
funny.
so polite. He immediately just knew how to open the food container like it was nothing, and then started closing the food container, which was just adorable. And then there's like the other two, Newt and Randall, and like Newt is just like trying to chew a hole through it because he can't figure out how the doors work. Even after watching Timmy do it like 500 times, he'll stand on it and try to open the door. And then there's Randall, who's the one I had to rescue the other day because he got stuck in the food. Like he got in, he just couldn't get back out. He's dumb. But yeah, so we have one smart squirrel and two very dumb squirrels.
Oh, that's, I mean, that's a start. That's a start. Who knows? Maybe other critters and creepers
That's
will,
like the beginning of a film.
show up in due time. Yeah. Okay, this is a total non sequitur, so I will keep it as short as humanly possible. But have either of you seen I think it was just called The Sword and the Stone, an old cartoon?
Yes. What do you mean old
Okay.
cartoon?
It's
You mean classic? You mean
classic?
golden
Yes, yeah, it is
example of
absolutely
animation?
classic, but I've met a lot of people who
Milk
never
Call
saw
in
it.
his prime?
Get out of here. It is definitely classic. I'll accept. It's absolutely a classic, but I've met a lot of people who haven't.
Masterpiece, my man.
I will even agree with that.
Masterpiece.
I've met so many people who haven't seen it. Okay, EL, did you say you've seen it?
I don't know. Maybe?
Okay, yeah. Part of me feels like now you need to watch it because there's this whole sequence where, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything. But Merlin.
Don't tell her anything. Don't tell her anything. Have you ever read The Sword and the Stone?
The sword. Read The Sword and the Stone.
The Sword and the Stone.
I've read a few King Arthur books.
This is different. This is, okay, fine. I won't spoil anything, but there are squirrels and they're prominent in a way that made me not like squirrels as a kid.
Yeah, Sword and the Stone. T.H. White. So T.H. White, he wrote The Sword and the Stone, which is the Arthur legend. Then he wrote Once and Future King, which is expanded Arthur legend. Once and Future King is one of the best books ever written. Yeah. The first part of it is when Arthur's a kid. That's some of the most magical writing you will ever read in your life. It's just marvelous.
So this is like Redwall, but King Arthur.
No. Redwall definitely stole from this. But it is Merlin is teaching Arthur how to be a king because he's going to be
Merlin
a king
is
one
a
day.
squirrel?
Merlin's the wizard.
But is he a squirrel? Where do the squirrels come in?
You're going to have to
read The Sword and the Stone. Read The Sword and the Stone. You will have a wonderful time. Or watch the Disney movie. It's also very good, but the book is it's probably top 10 for me for best books ever written. Sword and the Stone, T.H. White.
Yeah. Anyways, I only brought that up because there's some hilarious squirrel scenes in the movie, and that's all you need to know. Anyways, that was total nonsense.
There's some funny fish stuff. There's some funny bird stuff. There's a funny germ part. Elephant. There's an elephant in there. Yes, they did not put the questing beast in the movie, which was annoying. The questing beast is some of the funniest stuff in the book.
That's fair.
Read the book. Read freaking Sword in the Stone. For goodness sakes. Tim, have you read it?
I read it, but it was a long time ago, and I more recently read the later part.
Once a Future King?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
now I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, sorry to add another movie / book to your ever.
I'm so behind. I haven't seen Rocky either.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
Rocky's good.
Yeah.
But Sword and Stone is better. This should go higher on the.
It seems like that.
No, the movie Sword and the Stone is if you like animation, if you know the animators' names, you'll like Sword and the Stone. But I mean,
I don't know anybody.
I wouldn't go out of my way to see it unless you like animation. But if you're into writing and books and storytelling, read the book. It's part of the pantheon.
Okay, that's I can get behind that advice. Yeah. Like to me, it's one of those classics that if you watched it when you were younger, it sticks with you as something you still love. If you sometimes you watch the classics later in life, and if it's your first time seeing them and everyone else raved about them, they're terrible.
Well, Sword in the Stone is delightful. It has one scene has the only example I know of in probably any animated film where a character just begins laughing spontaneously. And it feels like a real person just is having a laughing fit. and it's so freaking funny.
Hmm.
It's really well done. People at the top of their craft made that movie. But if you don't care about animation, then
I mean,
no
I don't
big
know
deal.
that I don't care about animation. I appreciate pretty things that are done well with good
Well, Sword in the
storytelling.
Stone is definitely one of those.
I'm just not
very much so. Yeah.
not very much into like the names of like I guess as a kid I never knew who was directing
Mhm.
things. It never
Yeah.
occurred to me to like look that up. I don't even know how I would have looked it up. I didn't have Google. And
I have a book of all of the, not all of them, but a bunch of the drawings from those classic Disney films, and you can
Oh,
flip through
fun.
them and all the sketches and who did the art where, and I like that
Yeah.
stuff. That is where I nerd out.
I know Thundercats hits really different as an adult. You know, it was one of my favorite shows as a kid, and I loved it. I still love it in theory, but I did try to watch the first few episodes, and I was mostly thinking, my parents let this happen. They allowed this in the house, and, you know, I feel like I would be concerned about the influence on my child, and this might explain some things, but, you
I
know,
feel
they
like
didn't have
most
any
authors.
restrictions.
Oh, sorry.
Huh?
I was gonna say I feel like most authors I talk to, we all were introduced to certain things too early. I feel like that explains a lot of our
Oh, yeah. I mean,
later writing
like,
decisions.
my parents did not like children's shows, and they didn't have any restrictions on what we were and were not allowed to watch. So,
Huh.
like X-Files, I'm still afraid
Ooh.
of the music in X-Files because, like, my earliest memories are just the music and then aliens and alien pregnancies and alien abductions. I have no idea what
What
actually
about the
happened.
stretchy guy?
I
The
don't
stretchy guy in the vent is what got us.
Neil's gonna
I
have
don't have any
nightmares tonight.
specific memories aside from just, like, being terrified when I hear the music and trying to fall asleep and worrying about I'm still, like, mildly afraid of being abducted by aliens. But, that and then the cartoons we did watch were, like, Thundercats and He-Man, and it was, like, Top Cats? It was, like, cats and
Top
jets.
Cat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't and those were all really fun, and, then a bunch of, like, movies that were probably not for children, like Beastmaster. I think that's the one where they sacrifice a child in a fire. It might have been Beastmaster, it might have been the other
Classic
one.
80s movie.
Yeah, I mean, with the '80s movies, you never knew. There was, like, a bat thing that, like, consumed people and then just, like, bones fell out, you know, just, like, wrapped. I don't know if anybody remembers that monster or which '80s movie it was from, but but yeah, and then I would go to my grandparents' house, and my dad's mom was really into, like, horror movies, not like the popular horror movies, like the other horror movies that were just,
Mm.
like, 100% shock value, and
The
that
really
was
extreme ones.
yeah, that was,
Yeah.
like, literally, I think from birth, like, as soon as I was going over to my grandmother's house, I was seeing those movies, and it was terrifying. Literally had so many nightmares as a kid, and my parents were like, "I don't know why."
You knew.
Couldn't guess. But,
The Mothman? Was it the Mothman?
uh,
Mothman.
No.
I don't know.
Mothman's bad news, man.
It was like a bat thing, and it had wings, and it wrapped its arms around its victim, and then there
Oh,
was, like, bones that
not
fell out.
not not Jeepers Creepers.
I don't
That
know.
was later. That was a
I
later
don't know
one.
what the names of anything are.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
fair enough.
terrible at remembering stuff, but,
Yeah, I snuck a few horror movies from my aunt when I was younger, and I
Mhm.
like brought them home and watched them. But then but I think after that there was this big stretch where I didn't watch any horror movies. The closest would have been like Jurassic Park, which don't get me wrong,
Mm.
when you're 5 years old watching Jurassic Park, that can be some terrifying stuff. The second one especially, oh my gosh, those little ones, that still gets
Yeah.
me to this, like, oh yeah.
I don't
But then
I feel
Jeepers
like I've
Creepers,
seen the second one, but I haven't watched it a lot like I did the first one.
The first
fair,
one was
okay.
magic.
Yeah, the first one was absolutely incredible. I mean, well, I think Isaac, you and I, we've joked about this before. Yeah, the third one was kind of to me, but one
Oh,
and
third
two,
one was magic to me. It
yeah,
sucked. It
no,
was terrible.
it was
It was
terrible.
magic to me. I
Yeah,
love that
but
one.
1 and 2, I think for most of my childhood, still gave me nightmares years after seeing them the first time. So yeah,
Uh, I think I was like inoculated to like the fear for Jurassic Park 1 just because it was one of the only VHSs that was at my other grandparents' house.
Mm.
Like they had that and Fern Gully. And so I
Fern Gully.
watched Jurassic Park and Fern Gully like every weekend.
That's a
and
great upbringing.
and they had like a little remote dinosaur thing too, so I could like watch Jurassic Park while playing with a toy, which made it less scary and more fun. It was a wired remote control. I don't know if you remember those, but you could make the dinosaur walk. It's very
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, those were the best. We had great toys. That's the thing. I see a lot of kids' toys these days, and I'm like, it's almost too much going on. We had
Yeah,
great
they
toys
look
growing up.
now they look like unidentifiable colored objects that make
Yeah,
noise.
Well, now they're
And
competing with phones.
that's true.
that's fair too. Yeah, you see every kids on phones and tablets all the time. So
That's literally the plot for the next Toy Story movie, I think.
huh,
It's the toys versus the phones.
that's funny. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So, anything else to tell us about the sequel? About this
The
this
Spriggans are
awesome
back,
horror
I
movie?
imagine.
They haven't gone anywhere.
So, for one, somebody asked if the Spriggans were like Sylvari. I don't know what the Sylvari are, but if they're like Sylvans, then no.
Hmm.
Um, I did kind of make the entire Spriggans. They're a new thing. They're not really based off anything. Like they're kind of like they're almost like vampires. It's a cross between an Ent and a vampire, like Lord of the Rings Ent and a vampire.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can
I
see
would
that.
say if I had to like make a comparison, but really they're their own thing. But they do come up more in Ostranger's Wrath. One thing that I didn't really like about Starlight Jewel, just giving myself a negative review here. It's a book about Spriggans, but there's not a lot of Spriggans in it.
Gotcha.
Like towards the end, it's mostly the Spriggan human hybrids.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, she, kind of meets up with a couple Spriggans. But so in the second book, I wanted more Spriggans and I wanted to show like their scarier side. So that was really fun for me. And also generally there is less romance in this one. Even like I know there was only 3 steamy scenes in the other one, and then just like romantic stuff ish going on. But in
Yeah.
this one, like there is a plot point that makes that not possible for like most of the book. so
Hmm.
Okay.
so there is
Is there
significantly less romance.
is there at least a scene where someone's sitting out a window singing at least one time?
No.
Some moonlight serenade?
I don't think there is any singing in the book that I can think of. There were actually songs in Starlight Jewel, originally tavern songs,
Mm.
and I took 2 of them out. I left one of them in, but she's not actually singing it. She's just like talking about the lyrics of the song.
Mhm.
Fun.
But yeah, the singing felt like a little bit much. But now I've actually read some grimdark books and even had them on audiobook, like To Burn All Belief. I just finished To Burn All Belief this week. Fantastic book, fantastic series. And he made his narrator sing,
Oh, that's
which
funny.
That's a power
I feel
move.
like I would feel bad asking a narrator to do that. I
Yeah.
know that the narrator had to agree, so this wasn't like forced labor, forced singing,
He didn't surprise him at the end. No, there's also a song.
but there was like an actual song in it, and I was like, "Oh, that actually like worked for me as a reader." Like I was okay with that. I didn't expect to be okay with that. I expected to be revolted, but I enjoyed it. Usually I like a sort of more even keel narration that's more like just storytelling versus acting.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
the narrator for To Burn All Belief, which is the sequel to what's the first one called? An Ocean of Others. An Ocean of Others sequel. Um, he is really good, and he does the acting enough that it makes it more engaging, but not so much that it gets on my nerves, which does
Right.
tend to be a problem sometime.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think there's the what's his name? Adam Fernandez, the guy he picked for his narrator. He has a lovely voice. Incredibly, like that's probably like my ideal narrator for um like indie books. Of course, there's like 2 trad pub narrators that I like more. The guy who does Helldivers, who I can't remember his name right now.
The Helldivers guy?
The narrator for Helldivers, the Nicholas Stansbury Smith Helldivers, not related
the
to all
game.
the other. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
completely unrelated
Okay.
to the game. That's like a totally different thing.
I
This
was
is
like,
like
who
my
in the
first
game is
apocalyptic.
talking the most? I was trying to think.
I haven't played the games yet. My brother wanted me to play them for a bit, and I didn't want to make time out of editing.
You can join the Helldivers.
Yeah, it does look fun, and I would like to game, but gaming is going to be my reward for actually publishing this book eventually.
Yeah.
Whenever I get to do that, I don't know how long it's going to take me. It shouldn't be that much longer. I only have like 3 chapters left to edit, and then I have to go back
Nice.
in one section because they're riding horses, but like I never mentioned that they like found the horses to begin with. So like it seems
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
a
One
big one.
sentence, and then there
They
was
got
a
horses.
horse.
Yeah.
yes.
Just
So I
magically
do
on
need
yeah.
to fix that little thing. And like nobody has noticed because there's like 5 chapters in between these like 2 scenes. So it's not like a big deal, but it's gonna bother me knowing about it. Like I noticed it, so now I have to fix it, unfortunately. Sometimes I wish I just didn't notice things, but sometimes I do. And then it makes more work for me. But
Yeah, I'd rather just notice. It kills my soul when I notice them too late in the process, and then you have to do these huge, overhaul changes. I think, luckily, I haven't come across any inconsistency I have spotted has usually been a quick fix so far, thus far. But
yeah, that has not been my experience.
sorry,
There are no quick fixes, Tim.
Yeah, all my fixes have been not quick at all. Like when I realized I've got the raccoon chapter, and everybody, like, I feel like I've hyped up the raccoon chapter too much because I was excited about writing a raccoon character into this. He doesn't talk, just so nobody like panics and thinks this is going to be a ridiculous raccoon chapter. It's not. He doesn't talk. He's just a regular raccoon. But it was still fun to do all this research to see what is possible for a raccoon to do as far as like their physical capabilities and how you can train a raccoon. So that was
already sounds great. You did see now
really
you're
fun
hyping me up
research.
for it.
Obviously, it like ruined my Instagram algorithm forever. I will be seeing raccoon videos until the end of time. It was the whole reason that the snack bar was formed was because I was doing research for this book. Like before I was feeding the raccoons, but I was feeding them away from the house, like not out of sight, but I couldn't have videoed them where they were at. It was at my compost pile. I would just leave the choice compost on top of the compost pile. I didn't think my boss would be okay with me feeding raccoons. So again, I'm not the best employee in the world, but I live at work and I work night shift. So I can get away with doing a lot of weird stuff because he's asleep, so he's not going to know. And so I was leaving food for the raccoons, but not near the house. And then I wanted to, for the book, see them closer so that I could, you just want a little bit of inspiration how to describe how they're moving when you're like up close to them. And yeah, so that's how he got me this block of wood. So he approved of this. He is generally on board with book research. I think he finds it fascinating that I want to do all these experiments in his house. Like he commented on my hair jar, and he's been surprisingly okay with me keeping a jar of my own hair.
The hair jar.
Yeah.
Explain
That's
the hair
been fun to
jar
watch.
briefly.
So to solve the raccoon problems I had, I needed to do another experiment on hair, which is why my hair is so ridiculous.
So to solve the
right
raccoon
now.
problem, you needed a jar of hair, is what
Yes.
I'm hearing.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Connecting those dots. I have ADHD, in case it wasn't apparent by how I live my life. But
Sounds like a pretty great life.
so I'm collecting my hair. Usually I do keep my hair really short. Like I haven't been to like a hairstylist since I published just because I'm like saving money. So I just like flip my head upside down and like chop it off. And I call it a day because having a lot of hair is a lot of work. Like if
Can
you've
confirm.
never had long hair before, it takes like half a day to dry unless you want to use a blow dryer, which I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
So this is like the longest my hair has ever been. And it's because I'm collecting it to make human hair cordage, to test a book thing in to see if it's like realistic, because I researched it, and in theory, it should be like functional, because your whole head of hair can hold 4,000 pounds, and you lose 50 to 100 hairs a day. Um,
Okay.
and if you've got like 15 to 16 inches of hair, which I still haven't measured my hair yet, I keep meaning to do that. And yeah,
Poor
yeah,
Mike.
Mike, you know all about that. But but yeah, so I don't know how much. I don't think this is 15 to 16 inches, but that's the length that I was imagining this character's hair to be, would be 15 to 16 inches. So trying to make human hair cordage when you don't have any kind of spinning equipment. So she's in a survival situation. She's going to have
Mhm.
to use this hair to live.
Mm.
And so she's obviously going to have high motivation to collect hair, which is different than me, because I actually have things to do throughout my day. So collecting my hair, like she would be doing, is not possible. And also I have terrible memory. So I've probably been doing it for like 3 months now, but I only have 27 days of hair. I have thankfully kept track of the days. But yeah, so I've got a hair jar on the counter that I have to hide when guests come over. Because that is something that people would ask about. And I made like 12 foot of human hair cordage already. And I've done a
That's
lot of
wild.
fun research on human hair cordage. Like, apparently, this used to be a thing. Obviously, in ancient times, you would be using whatever supplies you could. And so there's like human hair clothes. And how I got this idea was because I brought home some jadeite bowls from my grandmary, passed me down some jadeite bowls, and I brought them home. And I compared jadeite collections with my boss's mom, and she was telling me about this hair receiver that she has. And I was like, what's a hair receiver? And it's a thing that they used to use like in Victorian times. They would have these hair receivers, they would collect all their hairs, and then they would make a pin cushion or a rat out of it.
Oh,
So the rats are
delicious.
really exciting. It's not like an animal rat. But it looks like one. It's a ball of hair that you
What
put
shall we do with
in
this
your
hair we've
hair.
collected? Let's make
Whenever
a rat.
whenever you see those movies with the big Victorian hair that's like huge, it's because they have rats in it.
Oh
They
my
have
god.
rats in their hair to make it, that poofy, which makes it much less romantic
Yep.
and
Yep. That's
much more icky.
I mean, I never
How many
liked that
rats
look
have you
anyway,
made
but wow.
today? I've made 4 so far.
Oh,
But
see, that is next level. I mean, that gives so much added flavor to the snack bar. Just knowing that the
Yeah.
backstory is this is just next level
book
commitment to
research.
storytelling
And now
research.
I've become the raccoon lady. It's
Yeah,
become like
yeah.
my whole identity, and like I wanted to describe raccoons.
Well, now you're gonna be not the hair lady, but we need a name for it because you can have
The rat hair
rats
lady.
and hair cords around your place.
And
I mean,
this
to go the extra mile to actually test the hair thing, I mean, I would have just been like, it's a fantasy story. Sure, the hair will work. To actually go an extra mile and test that's commitment.
Yeah, that's great.
and it's a Rapunzel reference. And the thing is, when I did the first draft, I was making fun of Rapunzel in the same way that I was making fun
Of
of
Cinderella.
Cinderella. And so there wasn't even going to be hair. Like her hair was
Mhm.
going to have nothing to do with it. But then I realized that my actual plot point, which seemed really realistic when I ran it through my head the first time, after reading it like 50 times, I was like, actually, somebody is going to see this from a distance. And like there was a problem with an angle. I can't say what the problem is without giving away the
Yeah.
whole plot. But there was an angle problem where like I didn't realize that there was gonna be I thought it was gonna be a 90-degree angle, and it was like this. And that was gonna be visible to everybody. So this plan I had did not actually practically work, even though it sounds way more realistic and
Well, see,
way
now
more
I'm
normal.
picturing a hair zip line. I don't know if that's better.
The hair doesn't have any of the same problems. Ironically, it solved all the problems, and so now I've like, committed to like an actual Rapunzel scene, which will probably not help my case as not being a romantasy
Yeah.
author, especially since she's not even involved in any kind of romance. She's like the most non-romantic person. She is basically a succubus.
Mm.
So
That's
and in
that's actually a
non-romantic
great
way.
word. Yeah, that's a great word for the character. From at least from what we've seen so far. I love
Yeah.
that.
And
Mm.
more so even in Ostranger's Wrath. She goes down a she's having some drug addiction problems,
Ooh, okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
All
But
that steam.
that's gonna be fun.
no steam involved for her, just misery. So but again, not the main character, not so this is a totally different but yeah, I do feel like it
Yeah.
will contribute to the romanticy accusations. Even though this is like the least romantic scene ever written, and there's not even a man around to like be involved.
You'll escape someday.
So there's not going to be a scene where the British love interest comes as succubus, lend down your hair.
Oh my gosh.
No,
So
no,
bad.
unfortunately not. I feel like it might
And it
sell
slings out the
better.
window like, I'm still growing, not done yet.
Yeah, she does have to wait quite a while before. So I did the math, which I hate doing. Everybody who has had to like watch me do math knows that my brain literally overheats with basic addition. Anything over the number 10 is complicated for me, but I took the time to write it all out and triple check it and ask some people to check my math on the hair and how many days I would need to create the right length rope at like 20 hair thickness and what the best way to spin hair by hand is. And you create multiple cords spinning it by hand and then braid them together. Anyway, it's been a very fun experiment for me, but also this is a lot of hair. And I hate hair touching my face and I hate it
I'm
touching my neck.
I'm
It,
curious where I think I might have you
I
beat.
think your hair is longer than mine. Yeah, I should have hired you for the experiment and then I would
There
have
you
never had
go.
to do
Tim,
That
if
it.
we
would've
ever
been
locked in a
genius.
tower together, can we use your hair to get down?
That just tells me I really need to trim this. It's about time. I've just been letting it grow. Yeah. My rule is my hair has to be slightly longer than my beard. And my beard, I'm on a beard dare right now. I'm not allowed I think we're allowed little cleanups, but basically I have to keep letting it grow until I publish my next book. So
Oh,
yeah,
well,
that's a dare.
yeah, that's intense. That's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's commitment.
endurance.
It's fun,
Yeah.
once it's down, down to my waist, I might be singing a different tune, but
Yeah. Well, by then you'll be a magical person. You won't want to
there you
cut
go.
it.
Yeah. You know what? Here's how I look at it, especially with the hair and beard
Wait, you're a
combo.
giant too, aren't you? I was gonna say you'd be
Yeah, I'm
like a
like
gnome, but
6'4",
no, you're
so
you're you're enormous.
yeah.
So if you had a beard that long, we'd definitely get out of the tower.
Oh yeah, and I mean, here's my thinking too. Fantasy author with a huge beard and long hair. I just need a
Just fit the
staff and a
genre.
pointy hat, right?
Yeah.
I'm covered. It's great.
I would also
That's-
suspect you're not good at finishing books either. If you had a massive, because doesn't George R. R. Martin have a big old beard too?
His is a little rounder, I think, but yeah.
He
No,
has he has a
I
fat
think
beard.
I'm getting there, and to Mike Molman's joy, I'm pretty sure this next book's going to be under 500, just slightly, but
That's nice,
still.
that's
So
nice.
like I'm very close. I'm over halfway through part 2, and it's only a part 2 book. I have a core. I'm on the final stretch. Like not a, yeah. I can do this. I'm pretty sure I can. Then I enter the editing phase, and hopefully it won't be as long as
Oh dear, yeah.
Yale's ostrich. Yeah, that's no, I don't. I love editing. I'm one of the weirdos, but two and a half. I would no.
Yeah, I love it for a while, and then it starts to enter this phase where like, "Oh, I'm not really enjoying this anymore. This is kind of rough." And then
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh my god, get me out. Please help me from myself because I keep noticing things and I keep
Yeah.
saying just a little more and then I notice more things that I just like can't live with it. It's like there's I just can't leave it. And I did leave things in Starlight Jewel. It's not like I edit to perfection. Like I've been accused of being a perfectionist, and that's not
Mhm.
true. I can complain about so many things in Starlight Jewel. Like
Mm.
and it has problems. It has so many problems. And I would rewrite it completely differently if I got to start fresh like tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Um
I know how that feels.
yeah, I mean so many mistakes. Just unbelievable amount of mistakes, but everything was a mistake that I could live with it was a mistake that felt like, okay, that's not the smartest way to do it, or, it's not like the best marketable thing, and that is a really jarring time skip or three. Um, but the story still felt really authentic to me, and
Mm.
everything felt good enough that I liked it. I enjoyed
And
it
it's
when I
fun
read it.
too, right? It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. It
That's
depends
the
on
most
how you
important
define
part.
fun.
I mean, and at least you caught these things, that's the thing. The painful
Yeah,
part is just actually doing it, but catching them and correcting them,
yeah.
at least you don't have to find them later and realize. I find there's something satisfying about the actual act of catching it and then correcting it, rather than the fear of finding it
Mhm.
later. I don't
Yeah, I don't find it satisfying. I find it really
know.
I just I always have this thought, like, "Why am I like this? Why did I just not
Yeah.
see it?"
uh,
Like, and it's the same thing when I'm reading other people's books. It's like I wanna enjoy it, and then I see something, and I can no longer enjoy it. The whole book is ruined for me because they said a house was making settling noises, and it's, like, 300 years old, so obviously it's not making settling noises anymore, and that's
mm,
all I think about for the rest of the book, and I can no longer enjoy it, and that's how I feel when I'm editing my own
fair.
book, is that I see something, and that sort of error, whatever it is like I can't think about anything else. And I want to be able to enjoy the book without getting snagged on anything. So everything I've fixed has been like a snag, something that's just not quite realistic enough,
Mm,
or isn't practical enough, or the order didn't really make sense. Since I do have so many freaking characters, which I should have
fair.
killed more. I did kill some characters in this book, and, I always laugh at the editor's weekly review. It was one of the first reviews I got where they described my book as having innumerable characters. There are so many characters.
That was for Starlight Jewel. Someone said that.
Yeah, uh-huh. It was a positive review even, but then when I read that line, I was like, "You know what? You're right. I don't even know how many characters are in this book. Too many. Too many is how many." And writing the second book, I felt that even more because, like,
Mm,
some of the characters were in different countries, and I needed both
fair.
their POVs, and that is really frustrating when you've got, like, 3 timelines, 3 different groups of people, and you're trying to figure out what's the best order while you're getting them all to meet in this one area.
Mm,
And so a lot of my editing was trying to figure out the best order for these chapters. And once you move something, you never know what that's going to affect until you reread it like 10 times because there's that one line in there that like actually had to do with the other chapter. It's very frustrating.
that had to come before, or yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a
Yep.
lot more fun to edit somebody else's book because I know I'm really
Not
observant.
always. I can say that. Not all, but yeah.
Well, it depends. I do ask for, like, test chapters before I look at anybody's books because I wanna
Yeah.
know how they react to the feedback, and also if it's just too much. There's some people who just don't even, like, look at it a second time, or their grammar is so bad that they need somebody else's help first,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, there's there's other people that can help you with the bulk of this because I'm gonna point out everything, and there's not gonna be a space on this document that isn't read, and that's not what somebody needs. If
Yeah.
somebody's at that level, that's just gonna be really discouraging to them, and I don't have the self-control to not do that.
Yeah.
So there are some people who are just I'm not meant to beta read their books.
Yeah.
And so I do try to keep that in mind when I'm, like, picking it, and no, I'm not open for beta reads. Please, no one ask me. I have already overcommitted to everything in my life. Um,
I hear you. Oh my gosh. And you just finished going through all your Spiffno first chapters, right? Which
yes.
that itself is a huge project.
Yeah, it was. It's so much fun, and I recommend that every author do it at some point. It is so useful to know what catches people's attention in the beginning of a
Mm,
story. It's so useful to know what catches your own attention because even though I've always been pretty observant with books, I kinda just like, if the story interested me, I continued, or if it didn't, but I have learned so much about what interests me in the beginning of the book and what I'm actually looking for that I didn't really realize I was looking for. and what really qualifies as a slow start. People always equate a slow start to like no action, which is completely untrue. That's not what anybody means when they say a slow start. But I have read books or in like these first chapter things where like the first chapter is entirely in the character's mind. The character is sitting at a desk thinking the entire time. And you never leave their brain. Nothing happens in the environment, and it is just them reflecting. And there is nothing I would, hate more than reading that. And it also does not give you what you need to know if you want to continue the book. So some of these books may turn out to be great later on, but these horrible first chapters where I don't know, like how am I supposed to know if I'm gonna like this
Yeah.
if it's just this guy talking about, you know, his reflections on his life and it's basically an info dump, in like poorly disguised as like him thinking. And
When I was a child, I was the best at making hair rats. Today, no one knows what a hair rat is.
I love my research rabbit holes, but I do think that people include a little bit too much of like the research and
Yeah.
backstory and things. Like there are things that are fun for authors that are not fun as a reader. Like
Agreed.
I, as an author who loves all these things, I don't like that in the story. I want the story and only the story. And I don't want, and like I get crap for like hating on prologues, but I've had to read a lot of prologues.
Yeah.
And it's been torture. Like, it was 300 last year and like 123, I think, this year.
That's going to be my question. Yeah, how many was it this year? I remember I saw it was over 100, but
Yeah, 123, and I think I skipped like 4 of them because I realized like I actually read the one that was disqualified because I realized that it wouldn't qualify when I was reading it. And I was like, well, I just wasted my time. But then the other 3 had Demanza covers, so I didn't even read those. But the rest of them, so I think it came out to 120. I think that's the right math. If there's 123 and 3 I didn't read. But
that's a lot. That's a lot of opening chapters.
It's a lot. And it's not just that you're reading that many prologues, it's that you're reading a prologue, a first chapter, and then reading another prologue, another first chapter. And there was one that literally had 40 pages of front matter.
Wow.
And
yeah, that's bad.
Think that author needs to go to jail. And I read them because I committed to do this project and I committed to do it in the way that authors I feel would want me to do it for their books.
Yeah.
And if you think that your prologue is adding to your book enough that you're going to include it, I'm going to read it for this project.
Yeah.
And mostly out of spite. And there are some good ones. Sea of Souls had an amazing prologue. Like, you should read that. If you're a prologue script, read that one. Sea of Souls is what a prologue should be. It's got perfect narrative framing. It was rich. It was cultural. Like, fantastic prologue. And it added to the story in a significant way. Like, and it got me into the mood to read that. And it's going to be bumped up really high on my list because I've been looking forward. It was on my TBR before Spiff No. And what happens when I have that dilemma is that I just say whether I would put it on based on reading it or not. So if I read the first chapter and it sucks, that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily taking it off my TBR, but it's not on the Spiff No TBR. But yeah, so it was torture reading that many info dumps because that is the main problem with prologues.
Yeah.
As that they're poorly disguised info dumps and backstories or the worst kind for me is the kind where like you're reading a grizzled old warrior in the prologue and he's fantastic and you're like ready to have this story with him and then you get to chapter 1 and it's a young person and then I just turn into the Gran Torino guy suddenly. I'm like, I hate this book. And it might have been different if I started out with a young person because there wasn't that excitement and then just drastic cliff of disappointment. So I feel like prologues often are detrimental to the actual story.
On that note, and it's so perfect, if you have time for this, we had a bit of a game prepared, and it is based on with maybe I think one or two exceptions. I pulled your biggest complaints from the
Oh.
past Spiff Knows. I looked through some of your grammar posts
Oh, goodness.
too, but so we have if you got time, we've got a bit of a game. Let's get this up here. I'm calling it
I
10
do.
peeves with the Lyons.
Prepare for the
Perfect.
pen peeves.
So
I have so many. I'm so sorry
no,
in
it's so
advance.
good. Like that's the thing. This is so up my alley. Every single one of these, absolutely. Anyway, so I'm really excited for this. The goal of this game is on each slide, there's going to be a list of 3 or 4 pen peeves, is what we're calling them. And you just have to rank them. Just tell us which you hate most, and just rank the others in order of least to most tolerable.
Least to most tolerable. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
So,
probably going to ask for clarification later because I have no ability to pay attention to instructions.
yeah. So just tell us what you hate most. Let's start with that on each slide. So
All
here we
right,
go.
all right.
You'll see. So
Follow the
prologues.
hate. Follow the hate.
So if you have to choose,
Oh, man.
what do you hate more between a bait and switch prologue, and that can be, like you said, starts off with a character, then kills them off and you never see them again. Or it can
Yeah.
be, it's tense change.
Oh my
I'm
goodness. Yeah.
sorry, and I just
No,
started a
one
book.
comes to mind where I was so done.
I just
And
started one, and it
it
looks
didn't
like it's
label
going to
itself
be
as a
good.
prologue. It was a trick prologue and it changed tenses. And
Yeah.
I was so done. But yeah.
I just started one like that, and it looks like so I have to take a bit of a pause just so I can start, because it started in past tense, kind of epic feel, and then immediately jumps to present tense, and totally different character, and I'm just
Yeah.
my brain was
You need to
so jarred.
cleanse
I
your
had to.
palate. You need some
Yeah,
wasabi to
yeah,
wash out that
yeah.
jarring.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I've told Mike Molman, who's still here, becoming a druid, really great example
Some
of
druids, yes.
fun, first person present tense. Like that doesn't bother me at all. And this looks like it's going to be a book that does it well, but I can't at that jump. And I've seen a few books that do it. Anyways.
Yeah. No, I can't.
So that's
I don't know
A.
if I'm biased just because now I'm thinking about that book that did that, but yeah, I'm gonna go with A. That's the one that
A
I
is going to be
hate
at the top.
most. Is the bait
More
and
than 40
switches.
pages of
More than 40,
prologue?
but see, 40 pages, but fits. That's I think how we're going to describe it. We're going to be
Are they a
fair use
good
of
40
them.
pages though?
So I think for the sake of this,
No, they were not a good for.
okay,
Okay, but
40 bad pages.
I will say something in defense of the 40-page front matter. It was clear that they did so much work. Like this person was dedicated. They were invested in their story in such a relatable way to me that if it had not been for Spiffno, I would have looked at that and I would have been like, "You go, girl." Fantastic. I'm not looking at any of that, but good job. I'm going to skip every single page. But having to actually read it was torturous. But I did respect it. I don't respect the bait and switch. I have
Fair.
zero respect for the bait and switch. I feel like you have tricked me. You have wasted my time intentionally. You have assaulted my brain with this jarring switch for no reason. Like, why did you need to switch tenses? Was it that important to have it in a different tense for 2 pages? For your 2-page prologue, was it really that essential? And did you have to kill the character who was actually cool? Couldn't you have just written the whole book for him? So I do feel more betrayed with the bait and switch. And it does make me dislike the author themselves, which I know is terrible, but that is how I feel. Logically, I know it's just a book. But emotionally, I do feel a certain way about bait and switch. So I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah.
That one's the worst.
Okay.
This is already as satisfying as I hoped it would be.
So bait and switches make you want to attack the author.
No, they are anathema to me. It makes me want to block them.
They don't even
which
exist
I actually
anymore,
have
I
in the
think.
past.
Okay,
I've
and then
blocked a couple authors over prologues.
so we have bait and switch is worse, and then which would be second worst out of info dump, just a huge info dump, or 40 pages. But let's pretend the 40 pages is a little more, sensible in some way. I don't know.
I mean, if it's a one-page info dump, I can endure it.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll
So
put
I
that
feel
at
like
3.
40 pages is worse
Yeah.
than the info dump, as
All
long
right.
as it's not a 40-page info dump, which it was. But
Oops. Yeah, there we go. All right. Number 2, AI. So AI, and again, I think the AI. Luckily, I don't think there were any AI written Spiff notes. So that was one I threw in just to give us, and then same with without permission. So, what irks you more, an AI cover where someone either claims that it's an artist or tries to pass it, even when there's been clear standards saying no AI cover? They've done AI writing, or someone steals the writing and adds it to like an AI repository without permission from the author.
oh man, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I'm gonna say C for sure is the one I hate the most
Okay.
because I
Gotcha.
feel like it is your creative work and you should have control over your creative works. That's just a given in my opinion that we should all be able to agree on. Like I it falls into the same category for me as the people who like to change books after authors are dead to make them more politically
Yeah.
correct.
Mm.
Like, no, Mein Kampf does not need to be politically correct. We can keep that one like it is. We can keep all the books how they were written. It's not right to take an author out of their time. Like, this
Mhm.
is my time. I am a millennial. I love memes, and the Persian cat guardian is like, my soul. I love that thing. And one day I'll be rich enough to get a real one. But you can't take an author out of their time, and
Mm.
you should have control as an author over your own work and
Yeah.
what is done with it. So I do feel like that's a violation, and you should not violate other people's art. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
say C for sure. Um, the AI covers, I'm gonna split B into 2 sections, B1 and B2. Uh,
Okay.
so there's AI covers where there was still some work done to it, and it was more ethically sourced. Like Firefly actually does get the copyrights for the images that they use, and
Mm.
tries their best to not just take random art off the internet that does not belong to them. So they get
Yeah.
permission from the artist to use their art to train their program, and
Mm.
people using Firefly know what they're using. And if the author discloses then that it is an AI made cover and an actual person used it as a tool as it was meant to be made versus just slop.
Yeah.
So B2 would be an author, you know, just puts a prompt into Chat GPT and gets
Slaps
a
it together real quick.
yeah, and those are super easy for anyone who's been doing this a while to catch. But yeah, so those I don't have any respect for that because for one, it's lazy and it's entitled and it's using other people's artwork. It's not using it as a tool, which I feel like there is an argument to be made for AI as a tool. So I am gonna say that is probably uh almost as bad as C. B2 almost as bad as C, and then B1. And then AI writing, honestly, I have no real idea how that would work because
Mm.
you can't accuse somebody. I mean, you can. I've seen people do it.
Yeah.
Accuse
We
people
all
of AI
have.
writing, but I've seen enough just bad writing
Yeah. True.
that
It's
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten really good at identifying AI covers. Like I spend too much time doing that um, as like my little side hobby. But AI writing, I don't know. I don't know how to tell the difference between somebody who just doesn't know how to talk right and has horrible plotting skills and can't write a
Yeah.
character and somebody who's using AI. Some people just aren't very good at things.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
That's very
they
fair.
haven't put the work in. Like, there are so many people who just really wanna be an author, And it's hard for me to relate to because I've been writing my entire life and never wanted to be an author. I was just writing for fun. And then so by the time I did want to be an author, I had some good foundation there already. And then there's just people who wake up and decide, I'm going to be an author and write a book. And then they just write their first book and they try to publish that without any editing and or they send it to me to beta read it. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And, maybe if I had been introduced after AI, I would have thought all those people were AI, but it wasn't. I read that before.
Yeah, fair.
And so I don't know. And
I respect that ordering. I think you're
and
right
I've
on.
talked to ChatGPT a couple of times and it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, it can't do math.
It cannot do math. I did notice. I can't do math, and I knew that it couldn't do math, so it does math worse than me, and I think that's saying something because I am.
If I need to
truly
know
bad.
how to cook something real quick, I jump on
wouldn't trust
Grok on
it.
Twitter.
I've heard that
It's
there's
worked every
problems.
time. I made the best freaking oven chicken ever.
Oh, that's
It was
funny.
moist and delicious, and
I am certain that I could help you make chicken better than the robot. I
That's
feel
funny.
offended for the chicken that you cook.
it was delicious. It was
Yeah,
good.
I've had okay experiences with Grok. I will say every once in a while it does impress me. But yeah, no, I have not gone to it for cooking advice yet.
I think that there are plenty of valid uses for it. And I think that even as a tool in writing in the future, not as it is now, like using copyrighted materials all the time, I feel like it could help people. But currently it is stupid. And I feel like people don't acknowledge that enough.
Yeah.
And it's also using copyrighted materials. So using it in fiction, I feel like is not very good. And the way that they're using it in academia often is not very good. Like there was that one diagram, it came up, I don't know, probably 6 months ago, of like a skeleton that didn't even look remotely like a skeleton, and they published it in a journal. And it's just like, you can't be that lazy. If you're going to use it as a tool in academia is kind of important for things.
You'd think.
So
have you heard about this new thing they're doing? So I don't know in what sphere of academia, but they've been pushing to not take pictures of human bones and to return human bones they found to the earth because it's like disrespectful to take bones from the ground. And so they've even outlawed in certain colleges you can't take a picture of the bone. There should be an illustration of the bone. So they're losing all of this factual data and relying on people drawing pictures now.
Yeah.
I don't remember which college it was. I watched a video on it. It was pretty crazy.
I mean, that's interesting. I would have to read more about that because when I was in college, we did a lot of like scientific drawings. Like we had like a botany journal, look in the microscope, and you do your little scientific journal of your little ball box that you're looking at, and things like that. And it's not, if you're good at scientific drawings, then that's significantly helpful to do that. It helps you commit those structures to memory as a student. But as professionals, once you're like actually in the field doing things, and I feel like humans are kind of like the most important thing to know about.
Not to get cocky, but yeah, it feels like that's not knowledge we want to lose. That somehow I do not see that becoming a mainstream issue in academia.
Yeah,
the video I saw was pushback against like different college professors that got together, put this presentation like we have to take pictures of the bones, people. We lose so much detail.
Gosh.
Yeah, I do feel like there are some things that you just and it's not like we have like a shortage of bones. And I feel like there are some instances where it's like disrespectful or you're taking it out of like the country of origin. Like the British are obviously very guilty, very, very guilty of just stealing people's bones from other countries. And, that's a real problem. I think that the scientists and academics in Egypt can probably look at those bones just as good. And maybe Britain should consider giving some crap back to other countries at some point, bones
Didn't the
included.
British like eat a lot of the mummies too?
They did eat a lot of the mummies.
They ate a lot of.
I don't think the British can be trusted with science in some ways, or art. Generally they have made mistakes in the past that are concerning, like eating people. Cannibalism generally frowned upon in the scientific and artistic and medicinal fields.
Once the body's
don't
old
think there's a
enough and you
field
have
for
enough
that.
rat balls in your hair, I mean, anything will taste good.
Yeah,
Gross.
you can blame a lot of it on like the arsenic and lead and everything that was in like the makeup, and people were literally brain damaging themselves for beauty. So can you really blame them? I don't know. I mean, Egyptians are they have robbed their own graves. So it's not like anybody's good at it. But I feel like if you're an Egyptian robbing an Egyptian grave, that's like better than going to somebody else's country and robbing their graves and then bringing it back to yours and then eating it. So I don't know. Those are ethical dilemmas that are beyond the scope of my understanding. Personally, I would not eat a dead person. And if I
It'd be
was
really
going to
weird
eat
if you
them, I
if you
wouldn't wait
learned that
until they were that not fresh. I feel like
Yeah, I
it'd
feel
be
like that's
really
a
weird
little
if
too late, you know?
if you
I think it's
learned
just
that
very
someone
aged,
came to
you
your
know?
country, dug up your great 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 grandfather, and
and
ate
then
them.
ate them.
That'd be
Like an aged
I
Scot, you know?
I think it'd be offended. I don't think it'd be mad. I think it'd be pretty offended and weirded out. I'd be very confused
Yeah, like
why
Yeah.
they did that.
yeah, your grandpa ate my grandpa, and that's just weird. It's just it makes things awkward between countries.
Maybe a bit.
Oh, yeah, I
But
did do a lot of cannibal research for the Yeshin nomad story. Um,
mm,
it's adorable, I think. And I tell myself to comfort myself that that's why Grimdark magazine rejected it, was because it was just too cute of a cannibal story. But
Yeah.
Munch was so fun to write. And people always complain, it's a big complaint in the reviews of Starlight Jewel about that time skip. And so I was like, oh, I'll write it from like the other perspective. And so that had me, asking my mom, who's a registered nurse, some questions about cannibalism, which she appreciated. She's used to getting weird medical questions from me for books. But yeah, about like what part of you should eat if you're going to self cannibalize. Those are the questions
Yeah.
I have with my family, and it's good bonding moments.
what a
Is
life.
it the butt?
It is not the butt. No.
Not the butt,
I read somewhere that
wait.
if you're gonna eat someone, that's the part you want to cut off.
Okay, this was self cannibalism.
Self-cannibalism,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so is it your nose? Maybe you cut off your ears,
Oh.
or
You're gonna shave. So first you eat your
Okay.
calluses, and
Got it,
the
yeah.
soles of your feet have a lot of extra skin on them,
Yeah,
and
we
then
don't
like
need that. We don't need
you
that at
you
all.
chew your nails down. You eat your fingernails and your
Yeah,
toenail tips.
you eat them.
Yeah, and then you just shave skin, just little. You get little chips, skin chips.
Yeah, see, this is why I don't normally read Grimdark.
You just shave.
I do not have the
Okay.
stomach for this.
This is
But
Tim. It's
did
just a
you
little
read the
tiny
Yeshin
shave.
Nomad? Did you read it?
No, I haven't.
It's the cutest cannibal story you'll ever read. It even has a little bit of romance thrown in there.
Oh,
I
it's
think I did a
adorable.
really good job of making
I believe
an
it, but you
adorable
are
cannibal.
scaring me. I know you write well. You don't have to convince me of that, but holy hell.
And I did have I
Okay.
had a lot of fun with it, but the research was wild. Sometimes
Apparently.
you go down a research hole and you reel a rabbit hole and you like realize how normal you are. You're like so normal that like these other things are just even more fascinating. That like, oh, I didn't realize that like half the population is already like self-cannibalizing. Like you never think about chewing your nails as being self-cannibalizing, but it is. You are self-cannibalizing every time you chew your nails. You're just eating your own flesh.
Not a habit I've
Very
ever
cool.
had, funny enough. I meet a lot of people who do. It's just no.
Yeah, I don't eat my fingers at all.
Nah, I don't either. I have a lot of nervous habits. I do chew on my lip though. So I
Yep,
self-cannibalize my lip all the time. It is
that's a fair one.
always
Yep.
like getting, yeah. So sadly, I do self-cannibalize some, and we all self-cannibalize a little bit. So you release skin cells in
Well,
your
that's what
mouth.
happens when you lose weight. If you go exercise, you self-cannibalize your body a little bit.
Yeah, in a way. So there's also like cannibalization that does not involve like the actual digestive system when you're just like even blood transfusions. So that's
Mhm.
I won't get into that topic because it'll upset some people. But but yeah, lots of fun research and prion diseases and just it was so exciting. And I now want to write a whole book about Munch the cannibal because
Hmm.
it ended up being so fun to write him. Um, and I feel like again, grimdark is probably not the way to describe my my writing, even when I'm writing about really dark topics. Just wanted to make it funny. But
Well,
yeah.
I
That's
think
awesome.
Bob gave it a thumbs up earlier, so I probably do need to give it yeah. I think if it has Bob's approval, I'm willing to give it a chance. Plus, it's from you, so
Bob is the coolest, and
yeah.
I was really happy that he and you took up my last minute art reveal.
That was
He's like,
fun. I mean, that was like I love seeing art like that in books, so just cool to see. Yeah. And
yeah,
Bob is the king when it comes to any sort of reveal. Oh my gosh.
he is. He really like the videos he does are just fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Oh man. I think the last two, three, at least the last two cover reveals I've done, Bob has just blown it
oh
out of the
yeah, I remember
water.
the follows of it. So I don't know how to say that. Paraphrase.
The
I
follow-up
read it
yeah,
all the
yeah,
time. I thought I knew how to say it. I didn't. Giving up before I embarrass myself more.
yeah.
Fall of
Anyways, oh
whatever cover reveal was fantastic.
yeah. Oh man. And I mean, I constantly see more. And I don't know, Bob. I don't know how you do so many. Because
I
yeah,
know he's a machine.
yeah, because it's like every day I see another SFFI, cover reveal being blown across my feed, and it's hard to keep up sometimes. But anyways,
Yeah.
okay, another pen peeve. Let's do some dialogue pen peeves from the Spiff
Mm.
Nose. So here, if yeah, let's start with the worst. What is the worst for you between no tags or beats, so you don't know who's speaking? Let's go to that extreme. Uh, or they mix up the punctuation between tags and beats. So
All right, for sure, A.
yeah,
100% clarity is the main goal when you're writing, and the main goal of punctuation, the main goal of tags and beats. The only point of a tag and beat is to know who's talking. So if you don't
yeah,
know who's talking, then you failed.
yeah,
That A is complete failure. Um, so I mean, if there's two people talking and it's a short conversation, then you don't really need tags and beats. And there's ways to get around it. You can like say that one character says the other character's name.
yeah,
You can't do that too much, but that does indicate the next speaker. And if you have one character with like a really thick accent, so if I had Munch the cannibal talking to Axley, if they had a conversation, which they don't in the short story, but if they did,
mhm,
then it would be easy and distinct to tell who's who. So you
Because
don't really
Munch
need
has a
it.
bunch of food in his mouth when he's talking, and
Yeah, he's got Axley in his mouth. But and himself at some points, he's but yeah, so if you've got some other way to clarify who is talking, then the tags and beats don't really matter as much, but you should still have some. Just
yeah,
some. And like if you have no beats at all, then you have characters who are no longer physically embodied and have no setting. They're just voices in the void. And it happens slowly, like you have a setting up here and then the conversation starts
yeah,
and then the setting is forgotten here by the reader, like there's no longer bodies and a setting, and then suddenly like 2 pages later you've just been like listening to two people talk in the void of space forever.
yeah.
So you need something.
Mhm.
So A, definitely the worst. uh
So if you had to pick between the other two, what would be the worst of those two? Yeah.
so like wrong tags, like having
So I think
side
for that,
as
yeah,
a
the
tag.
comment you made for I think more than one was that you caught people using inappropriate tags, words,
Yeah, I
so
consider
yeah,
B and C like the same thing because you've turned a
yeah, that's
beat
fair.
into a tag, and that's how it's punctuated
Mm,
incorrectly. So tags versus beat, the only difference is punctuation there. So it's annoying. I would say it's something that I notice repeatedly, and anything that I notice repeatedly is a problem for
Mm,
me as a reader, but
yeah.
it's not a huge problem if there are redeeming factors. So I won't say who it is. It might still be here in the chat. I don't know. But there, there was one book that I really loved, and it had some tag beat issues. A few books that I've really loved have had tag beat issues with the grammar, and I still really loved them because the storytelling was so great.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are people like me who like edit for 2 years and finally get the book to be like moderately good. And then there are people who just like write and they wing it and it turns out to be a fantastic story. I don't relate to that experience at all.
Yeah.
But they don't know any of the grammar rules. And, I don't even know if these people know what nouns are, you know, but they write, fantastically. So it doesn't really matter because the
Yeah.
story is engaging enough that even though I'm noticing the grammar, it's not bothering me because I'm so excited to get to the next parts of it.
Yeah.
So the tag beat grammar I do complain about a lot, but I complain about it in stories that are more like mine, where the editing is actually important because the story is a little slower.
Mm,
And if you're writing something that's a little slower, that gives people the mental time to stop and think about your crappy grammar
yeah.
and
It
the
starts to
fact
stand out
that
more.
you don't know this very basic thing. And it always tells me like you didn't have an editor, even though I have now found at least 4 editors that don't know their tag beat grammar, which has been shocking to my system.
That is,
Which
yeah. That's
And it's like there are people who think that because like they've been an English teacher forever or they have been reading forever. They're like, "Oh, I am so smart. I'm so good at English. I catch everything because they catch like typos." And they think that qualifies them to be a copy editor.
yeah.
And it it hurts me. And I've got into a couple arguments and I try to stay committed to not engaging with that, like cuz I know it's going to make me look bad. It's going to make me look one like pretentious. I'm not pretentious. I just feel like you're ripping people off. Like I
Yeah.
don't think you should be charging people money when you don't actually know what you're doing. And they don't
Mhm.
know that you don't know what you're doing
Yeah.
because
Well,
they don't know the grammar. And that's why I always encourage authors learn the grammar yourself. Like learn what is correct and incorrect and learn the parts of a sentence. All this stuff is important for reasons other like you can't just say I'll let my editor do it all
yeah.
because you have no idea if your editor sucks.
Yeah.
I
And
have a
some of
little
them do.
grammar book I bought.
Oh,
Just
which one?
Essentials of Grammar. I forget what it's called.
Is that what the Strunk and White one is called?
I don't
No,
No.
know.
no,
Maybe?
that's Elements of Style, is
I
that
just
right?
always yeah,
Oh,
Elements of Style.
I want to buy that book. That's
That's a
E.B.
great
White,
book.
right?
That's a really solid one, yeah. And, another
Yeah.
one that's essentially the same, but a bit longer, expands, that I really like, I would actually say I like it more than Strunk and White, would be, Roy Peter Clarke's Writing Tools.
Okay.
That's a really good one. That's the one
Never
I
read that one.
recommend wholeheartedly. I put it right up there with, just for anyone learning writing really fresh off the bat, I like, Steven Pinker.
Steven
His
Pinker's book was amazing. I loved that. I feel like if I had
yeah,
read that 10 years ago, it would have been so helpful to me.
yep,
And
I
yeah, you
needed
should
that, yeah.
definitely read
A
that.
friend recommended that to me while I was doing my master's, and that's actually what set me on the journey to where I am now. It was because that book blew my mind, and it made me just addicted to learning more about the craft, you know? Yeah, so I would put Roy Peter Clarke's Writing Tools right up there with that, which is
Roy
saying
Peter
something
Clarke.
for me, yeah. Um, and Bob says, as a reader to be grammar deficient, that's really funny. Yeah.
I still remember the time in my life when I was grammar deficient and I didn't notice things. And it was really nice. I don't recommend, Bob, I know you follow my grammar posts, but I don't recommend it highly as a reader. It
It's
does
true.
ruin certain experiences for you.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I do remember just reading books, just reading them and not having any big thoughts about and this was trad pub so maybe I would notice more things if I had been reading indie then But like I do remember just like reading and not thinking about anything. And now it's like I'm reading and I'm like, they could have done that sentence better if they had like moved that participle. And like
Yeah.
that's just not a it's not a fun way to read. And like I just can't turn it off in my brain. So but I'll blame my writing mentor, Mark. I learned to love grammar from an engineer. So it's always like good
Mm,
English. And then I met Mark and I had done like editing for people's academic papers in college. And I continued doing that after I graduated for years. It was tons of fun. And I got to learn a lot and go down rabbit holes that were exciting. But then I met Mark and he made me actually love grammar. Um,
mm,
Something he said about the way sentences like form the story made me realize that like the actual writing it wasn't just about correct and incorrect. Like you enhance your story, you enhance everything. If you actually understand grammar, you can craft a better story, and it's going to sound better to your ears. And it correct doesn't always sound good, incorrect doesn't always sound bad. It's but if you understand what you're working with, then you're gonna be better at working with the thing.
Right.
And that seems like really obvious, but I never thought of grammar like that. I thought of it in terms of correct and incorrect. And that's completely the wrong way if you're an author to think of it, because correct and incorrect doesn't matter. It's how to use words.
yeah.
That's what grammar is about, how to use words in the best, most efficient, and most clear and like most poetically sound goody phonoaesthetic way possible.
Yeah. And I've definitely met, now this is, I see this much more in academia than in fiction writing, but I've met academics who know their grammar to extremes far better than we do, you know? And and yet they write the stiffest, most empty writing, and not just to meet academic standards, but they seem to lack the, so they might know a lot of the rules and the technical names, and they know how to explain the grammar behind what they write, but they
Yeah.
have missed something. And it is, there is a grammatical flaw behind it too. You can see it. You can see that they've there's an intuition to grammar as well that I think is important. And if you don't learn that alongside the learns and alongside if you don't learn that alongside the technical rules and names, you're kind of boxing yourself in. You'll end up writing really cagey, really stiff, empty prose. I mean, for fiction, you need that fluidity, and you need
Yeah.
the, you know, yeah. Anyways,
That's
you need
actually
to,
how I started out. I was one of those writers.
yeah,
When I first started college, um, my academic papers were incredibly boring. Um,
mine
I
too.
didn't want to read them. And I was, like I said, I was really good at English. Like I made like perfect scores in the SOL, and which is I forget that you guys you're at least not American. I don't know if you're American,
We
but
have an equivalent, essentially. Yeah, I know what
yeah,
you're talking
the
about.
testing things. Like I
Yeah.
did really well in English. As it turned out, I knew nothing about English. Um, and you learn that as you like, but I think some people never realize that like the English that you learn in grade school is for children.
Yeah.
It's like it's one version of formal English. It does not cover all of English. It's practically useless. But I was writing incredibly boring academic papers, and you know how they have like these writing places at the college where you go and they have like editors there who will help you make your paper better.
Yeah.
So I went to one and I hated him. He was useless. He like didn't even know how to fix my paper like, and
Yeah.
it's like I could see that it had problems. I could see that it was like boring and terrible. And everything was correct. I knew everything was correct, and he was just like, "Well, it's correct. Why does it matter?" and, and like, it still mattered to me to write a good paper.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a good paper and like a paper that sucks. And so I went to another one, and I finally ran into this girl, and I can't even remember her name now. But she also had curly hair, but hers was blonde. That's all I remember about her now. But she was an English major, and she helped me to learn how to write in an engaging way in academia. So still not quite useful for fiction, not quite what I learned from Mark, but it was incredibly helpful to have somebody who understood English outside of just correct and incorrect,
Mm.
and in a way that was academically engaging. And if you don't get past that first hurdle, you're never gonna make it. You're never gonna make any kind of writing engaging if you can't make academic writing engaging, in my opinion, because that's where, I mean, I guess maybe I feel that way because that's where my starting point was.
Mm,
And like I just came from that background where I was writing essays and writing stories at the same time, and that kind of like translated. But I
fair.
don't know. I understand that mentality of like just having really boring writing. What I don't relate to is the people who don't realize that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could show them what it looks like from somebody else's eyes. And I feel like I've always been able to look at my writing and say, like, that sucks.
Well, I think my
Like,
thing was I knew I had the exact same thing. I went for help, and it was just more of the basic grammar and structure, and no one could help me get past that plateau. And I
mhm.
saw it. This is terrible. I know it can be better, and I've seen examples of better. How do I bridge
Yeah,
that
what's the difference? And it's
gap?
hard to see the
Nobody
difference.
said add a raccoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personal choice.
No, but
But
once you have someone like Steven Pinker or Roy Peter Clark or Strunk and White even kind of give you a
mhm,
few of those tools to start playing around with, and you see the difference it makes. Like for me, my academic
yeah.
papers in those final few years, yeah, they were radically better than what I've been writing before. It was such a subtle shift, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, and it's hard to describe to other people, like especially when they're newer. You don't want to discourage somebody on their editing journey,
Yeah.
and some authors are completely uninterested in having an editing journey, which I which I get.
Yeah.
That's fine. But like when somebody asks for feedback from me, I always feel like I'm usually not the one. There's so many people who would be better for you because I'm gonna struggle to know what to help you with versus somebody else who's gonna help you with like the three things they see. Like I said earlier, like I have no self-control. I'm not the editor for the vast majority of people.
Mm.
But I will edit a book that I'm already reading. And that is something I do probably to the annoyance of many authors. Most people who have had me read their book, if I'm not doing the audiobook, which I do audiobooks because it's less stressful because I don't see all the errors. But if
Fair.
I'm reading an ebook, that author is going to get like 200 screenshots. And
Oh wow.
and I apologize.
That's
I
awesome.
know it's annoying. And but like I always think of it like I would want to know personally, but I
Oh,
also know
yeah.
that is everybody like me? I don't know. And I have had a couple people get offended, but other people are really appreciative and
Yeah.
other people block me. So
This guy. I mean, yeah, I think one piece of your I think one of the first comments you gave me ever when I gave you a few chapters for mine led to an entire editing pass. An entire like I did
so sorry.
a whole new editing pass. No, because it was one of those little shifts that I needed. Like the little shifts that you get from those Roy Peter Clark or so because that's how I am. Once you give me the tool, I get
Yeah,
obsessed with it
exactly.
and then
And that's what I got from
apply
Mark.
it. Yeah,
Like if you're not ready for the tool yet, then it's useless to you. But if you
yeah.
are ready for it and somebody gives it to you, it's invaluable.
It's
And
like the
so when
best
I
gift
started
on
working with
earth.
Mark, he
Yeah.
helped me get past like so many hurdles. And he was
Mm.
willing to read Starlight Jewel like 20 times, which I feel like for me would be torture to like read somebody else's book 20 times. And he just like stuck with it and like helped me make so many parts of it better. Like suspense
Mm.
was a huge issue in the second draft was the first draft that he saw of that. And like I just didn't understand the long game of suspense and the stakes game that went into suspense. Like it felt like it was a very present thing. Suspense is not present at all. It is not the present of the story. It happens in the 3 chapters before, and it happens in the character's mind. Suspense is not about the setting.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that. And I just needed somebody to like point out, hey, this would be more suspenseful if I had something to care about. And, so he helped me with so many things like that have nothing to do with correct and incorrect. They have to do with the craft of storytelling.
Yeah.
And those were things I really struggled with Probably because I came from academic writing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now
so-
we're okay. We have 3 more sets of these, but we're past 2 hours, which is awesome. I mean, I am not even remotely
I'm so
surprised.
sorry.
No, I mean
I
that's
do
awesome.
ramble a lot.
Oh, this is great.
Character flaw.
I think we both knew. I for one was ready to drink this up. So, yeah,
It's all
no.
good.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Well, we can go quickly through these if we want, or we can. Yeah. Let's see. We'll quickly blast through these. So for commas, what would offend you most between let's say excessive comma splices, or just even a one, missing an Oxford comma or a serial comma.
Okay, D for sure.
D?
Yeah.
No comma before that's no, you and I talked about this, so I feel like I'm rigging
Yeah.
this a little bit. That's funny.
I mean,
I
I
didn't
do
expect it
feel
to
like
be, yeah.
the missing Oxford comma does not bother me at all. I actually don't like
I figured that would be
the
yours.
Oxford comma.
Yeah.
So when it's not there, I'm just like, yes. And even though I put them in my book, I only put them in my book because so many beta readers complained. I was so mad.
I'm the
But
same.
like, I love my beta readers and I wanted to make them happy. So there were like 2 editing things that I did just for my beta readers. And that was one of them.
Yep.
And I feel like that was the grammar gift that I gave to them, sacrificing out of my own personal feelings. So B doesn't bother me at all. I actually love B. But
Yeah, I'm
D,
100% with you.
um,
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is I see D so often now, and there's some people who will defend it to the death. Like it is the hill they will absolutely die on. And I can't read that sentence. That sentence kills my soul. It just,
Well, it's got 2 verbs.
yeah, it's just, it's the
it's not
misuse
correct.
of then as a conjunction. It just doesn't feel appropriate. It stretches it out. It makes it feel like a run on,
Yeah, I mean, like technically, so elliptical sentences when you've got like a noun or a verb that's missing. Sorry, I'm pointing to the screen and you guys can't see my screen. But so I went to the park, then I ate a sandwich. So the second I is missing, and that's what would technically make it a second independent clause.
Yeah.
And like when you say, and so it is an elliptical sentence. It's not one verb with 2 objects. Because, like you said, it's got 2 verbs. I went and I ate are the 2 noun verbs. So it is 2 independent clauses, even though that noun isn't there. You can't really pretend that that one is not. Like, I went to the park and then a sandwich. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think that one really needs a comma.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I feel
with
like
you.
that one's wrong.
Should
And
change
A,
it to I
It
choked
shouldn't
on the
make me so
sandwich in the
happy, but it
park.
does. Yeah, I am glad. I really did. I don't know why, but yeah, I thought maybe, the commas.
later, Bob.
Oh, yeah. See you later, Bob.
Bob
Yeah.
gotta go. Bye-bye,
Oh, man.
Bob.
Yeah, that's funny.
The
Okay.
comma splices also, I don't even like a really long sentence. Like, just a regular grammatically correct long sentence can sometimes get on my nerves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if it's like left branching instead of right branching. Like, my ADHD brain cannot deal with, like, just give me the information I need and move on. Like,
Yeah.
I need
Whenever I see a
complete the
really, really
task.
long sentence in something, I always notice it. And when I notice it, I'm pulled out because, like, oh, the author's playing now. He wants to show you how smart he is. Look at this massive sentence I wrote.
Yeah, with like 5 different pieces of punctuation. It's got like 2 semicolons and 3 commas and, an em dash. And like,
Yeah.
great, you used all those correctly. That still sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And my brain hurts. Like, I don't want to keep track of the noun that's up here for the next 3 lines.
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
fun.
that's
That's
what's the
actually
absolute
genuinely
worst
not
is
fun.
when it's like you said, left hanging, but it's when it starts with initial idea and you expect me to remember it 3 or 4 lines down. No, like no one, just spare yourself, spare all of us. Keep it together. If you want to add more information after, that's fine.
Yeah, complete the idea so that
Yeah.
I can, incorporate that into the story in my mind. Don't make me hold on to it for this long period of time.
Yeah.
Because then I'm tired of you. I'm tired of you at that point. And so when the comma splice, if it's like a comma splice and like a really short 2 independent clauses, I don't care. Like,
Fair.
I'll look it over, but that's never how it happens.
Yeah.
Because it's always the comma splices happen because the person forgets the structure of the sentence that they're writing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like usually what I find with incorrect punctuation, it's because they've gone on for too long. They can't even hold on to the whole sentence for that long. And so they lose the sentence halfway through. They meant to make it one independent clause, and that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And they didn't even realize it didn't happen because they're still writing. So
Yeah. Okay, let's
okay, yeah,
one
but
more? Yeah,
he had
the
better
apostle.
grammar. He had
Just me.
better grammar, all right. So God-gifted grammar. So I feel like that's a whole different situation.
There's
Hebrew
also
has
a
no
language
punctuation.
barrier, so you know, like and translations. So get out of here. I don't, that's no.
I'm actually not sure that Hebrew has punctuation.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Hebrew has no punctuation.
Greek.
Well,
I don't know if
we would
Greek
be
I don't know
talking
about Greek.
right? Greek
Yeah.
for
But I don't-
Paul.
I
But
don't
yeah.
know what the was the New Testament in Hebrew first. I think it was in Greek.
That
New
is
Testaments?
that is up to a lot of debate.
Anyway,
Anywho,
it's not the same
That's
grammar
a
as
high-tech,
English
yeah.
anyway. Regardless, voice, too many POVs, excessive hedging.
So
Scene-
there, voice. I just
filter
gave a
words?
loose label to these, but for that,
Like filter words, is that what seemed
exactly.
He
Yeah,
seemed to be
yeah.
thinking
Okay.
about what he might be able to do, maybe.
to you? That's like me all the time. I have to edit so much of that out.
So funny. I mean,
Excessive
conversation. Yeah, we all do it a
dreams,
lot.
visions, and flashbacks. Did I complain about excessive dreams, vision, and flashbacks?
At least once. Yeah, that's one that came. Yeah,
I was probably hungry. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I usually like
Usually
dreams
don't
and
mind that?
visions,
Mm.
but I guess if it's in the first chapter, never mind. I probably did complain about that. It was probably only partly that I was hungry. The
That's
first
funny.
chapter, in my opinion, should be where you immerse the reader in like one scene. When
Mm.
it's like a bunch of mini scenes, again, it's just jarring, kind of like the bait and switch prologues. Like, I don't want that scene to end and then have to restart. Every time I have to restart, it gets me out of the story. And I don't mind that later on.
Yeah.
Like, later on, I'm more okay with it because I'm already invested, but I have to be invested first. And so I want a long, cohesive scene to get me immersed in this character and prepare me to thoroughly enjoy this story. And that does not happen when there's flashbacks and dreams in the middle, or if like it starts out, a lot of books want to start out with a dream. And I just kind of find that annoying. I
Yeah.
don't really have a logical reason for that. I just don't want to start out in a dream. I want to start out right now. When
Well,
the
it kind of
problem
feels like a lesser version of the bait and switch prologue, right?
Yeah, like, 'cause
Yeah.
you really have no idea what's gonna happen with the story because 'cause you're in a dream. Like,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
where I wanna be. I wanna be in the story right now when it's happening so that I know what to expect for the main part of the book. I wanna
Yeah.
be in the main story. So,
Have
I'll
it begin
say
with them dropping their car keys down the sewer drain in the rain.
It sounds like something I would do. I did lock myself right before publishing Starlight Jewel. I locked myself out of the house at like 3 in the morning in my pajamas with no shoes, no phone. I was taking out the trash, and we had just
no.
got a new doorknob that locked the other direction. Like it used to lock horizontal, and this one locked vertical. And I called Papa Lock. He had left his Papa Lock kit on top of his car and drove to me. So his Papa Lock kit was on the highway. So it was wonderful. So that's the kind of luck I have with keys. I actually had called that same Papa Lock man before multiple times. He knew me when he got there. So
Oh, hey.
that
Feels very relatable. That's terrible, but that's a whole other level. Oh, I'm so sorry.
it was a fun night. I gardened at 3 in the morning because there were weeds to pull and I was waiting without shoes. So, but yeah, now that I'm thinking of that, I'll say C is my least favorite.
Fair.
B gives me secondhand embarrassment because it reminds me of me.
Yeah. And
So
I'm guilty too. So yep, it's the one I use. I think I do it less now in my writing. But
I
so
still do it a
I
lot.
don't have to work on it as much intentionally in my writing. I just find I don't catch as many. But I mean,
Yeah.
in conversation, oh yeah, hedging all the time.
The seam twos, the moments, the a bits. I'm terrible with a
Mm,
bits.
yeah, yep.
Like, and a bit is such a stupid sound. It just whatever you're writing, it sounds twice as dumb if you've got a bit in that sentence.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna say B is definitely the second one I hate.
fair.
Um, and A, I don't mind too many POVs if it's all a central story. Um,
Mm. But in this
so
case, I think I would qualify too many POVs in a short space, let's say.
okay, yeah, I just find that annoying.
Fair.
Like,
Yeah.
I wanna be immersed, I want to,
Yeah.
like, get to know a character, and when you introduce like, there were some prologue and first chapters where I felt like they were introducing the entire cast of character from, like, their actual POVs
Oh,
in the prologue and first chapter, and I'm just sitting there like, "This is too many, I can't even remember the last guy."
yeah.
Because he only had 5 paragraphs, and now you're introducing somebody else. I don't know any of these people. Like, introduce one person and then give me the next person in, like, 4 chapters. So, that is super annoying,
Yeah.
and also, I will complain about outside of first chapters, there's, like, Game of Thrones types books, and what's the other one that's really popular? Everyone loves it, and I kind of love it. I had to DNF it, but I kind of loved it in a way. Shadow of the Gods, I think? Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gwyn?
John Gwynn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Um, both of those books or series were multi-POV, incredibly well written, aside from the Shadow of the Gods book had that one beach scene that I feel like is a small plot hole. Um, anyway, the characters are everywhere.
Mm,
And there is like it is so hard to find the central story in that it's not like revolving. I like multiple POV when it still revolves around one person or one story. Not
yeah.
when they're like on different continents and you know that the stories are going to come together eventually, but you're always like wondering how and why and like it feels like you're reading like 10 different books that are glued together. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm reading this book now, and then I'm gonna read this book in one chapter, and I don't find that immersive. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yep.
also don't like that.
Something I'm actually wrestling with right now in just a small portion of my sequel. So yeah, it's something to even look out for, especially if you play around with POV. Yeah.
Um,
All right. I think this is the last one. I just love this picture. This one's probably my favorite of them.
I had always assumed that, people have told me that I look really angry all the time, and what I thought they meant was, like, that typical RBF where you just, like, have a serious somber, and now I realize that they mean that I am, like, outwardly, animatedly upset with the world all the time.
See, I had no idea what you were talking about when I first heard you saying this about yourself until I saw some of these pictures, and then I was just dying laughing, and then I started seeing them in.
Yeah, there's, like,
Anyways, yeah.
resting BF, and then there's, like, animated BF. Apparently, I have
ABF.
animated BF, and, I don't know what you're allowed to say on the YouTube. I don't wanna get my own interview taken down, but, yeah, like, I had no idea I made expressions like this, and I know there was a girl in college who said she'd been dared by the other girls to talk to me, and that's how we became friends,
What?
and and so I always kind of knew that I didn't look friendly, but now I realize I look crazy. I don't just look which is hilarious, and I'm all here for it. I would love to become a viral meme,
So good.
but,
Yeah.
it
We're
was
gonna make it
shocking to
happen.
me because I'd never done video interviews. When are you ever gonna do video interviews as, like, just a regular person?
Yep.
I wasn't even on social media to see myself, so
Yep.
it was very shocking.
Ah, so
Uh
good. All right. So for these ones, yeah, this is just miscellaneous. Just so I put it
Okay,
all under
C.
WTF.
C,
Yeah.
100%. Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so annoying,
Yeah.
and
Oh, but it's her character though.
dude, it like, that last one the last one that I read, I was just like, "There is no way any woman in this situation is is doing this.
Yeah.
This
What if she's
particular
jealous of the
routine.
zombie's gaunt face? She's like, "Oh man, I wish my face was that thin."
It's
And she
like a
starts.
reverse warm bodies, and so she's suddenly jealous of the.
She's
No,
jealous of the
no.
zombie coming toward her.
It was I just can't even. It
Yeah,
was
no.
so bad
Yeah,
and so upsetting. And of course it was a man that was writing it.
yeah.
And
Was it
like
played for laughs or was it serious?
it was serious. Like it was
Oh, you
I
see it so often. It's not a one-time
it's
thing.
definitely not the only one. It's one of the worst that I've seen. One of the
Fair.
worst I've seen though, just because of all the circumstances around this were so serious and so not like there is just no woman in these series. Just it wouldn't happen. I put on makeup for this podcast because I know it's on the internet forever. That's literally the only reason. I'm not doing it, because I'm a woman and I want to feel pretty. Like it's not like it's just I don't want to embarrass myself publicly forever. But if you're in the situation where none of that is a factor, there are no other people. There's no one. It's literally just you.
That's so good.
Why? But anyway, so
Yeah,
that one was upsetting. But so yeah, C for sure.
fair.
100%.
Yeah,
Then A for
yeah,
sure. The
yeah.
dialogue in first chapters needs work. Look, if you can work it in realistically, sure, but no.
Yeah,
Anyway, but yeah,
no.
as you know, Bob,
I would make
dialogue.
it part of her character.
Yeah,
Ugh,
like I said in that post about it, I mentioned that my characters do their makeup in the book all the time. They're prostitutes. Of course they're doing their makeup. It's part of their job and they have to see people and like attract those people. So like there are tons of ways to make it a part of your character in a realistic way and having or even internally making it realistic, pointing out. I think that's one thing that I have noticed with books is authors will make something a part of somebody's character but won't acknowledge it as nonsensical. If you
mm,
acknowledge the nonsensical thing as
yeah,
nonsensical somewhere in their internal dialogue, then
Like
it's a lot easier to accept as a reader.
if she's thinking I'm gonna die today, I might as
Why am
well
I
look
even worrying
pretty.
about this? Yeah, like if she
okay.
acknowledged that it was an absurdity, or if she was like, I don't even care that there are
Or if
zombies
she is
everywhere.
slipping, like she's rejecting the reality. She's just another day.
Yeah, exactly. And if you know that from the internal monologue, then that is something that I, as a reader, I can accept, I can enjoy. And I'm like, oh, that's actually really fun and neat. But if it's just there, no,
Yeah,
I
Mm,
won't.
it needs to service the character, not confuse the reader.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, all the info dumps disguised as dialogue in first chapters are terrible.
yeah,
I would rather be so confused. Confuse the heck out of me. I don't need to know what's going on, to be quite honest. I'm perfectly content to be confused for at least 4 chapters.
yeah.
What if the
Um
opening dialogue is as you know, Bob, this new alien dating show is going very well, but now people's heads are falling off. What if that's
Like,
the first sentence?
but I mean, so if it's a newscaster or something, there are definitely people who would say, "As you know," but when you do it for exposition, and it's so like, and
What
I
if it's
think,
2 guys in front of a whiteboard?
well,
then you just start talking. You don't
yeah,
have to
yeah. Move
like
on.
go over things that they already know. You can start in the middle.
What if
You
Bob
can
says,
even
"I
start
know
at the
that.
end.
Why'd you tell me that? I know that."
Okay,
Uh,
at least it's on it. At least, yeah, you know what? That could be okay if it's
yeah, I
self-aware,
mean,
fair.
yeah, if it's self-aware, I feel like it's better, but
Yeah.
I would rather just be confused than have anything explained to me in the first chapter.
Well, I think
Like,
you brought it up twice in I think at least twice, but there were two that I remember in the Spiffno passes. One of them just mentioned, it was a case of dialogue exposition, essentially, as you know, Bob. But then there was another one that you pointed out where someone gave a bunch of exposition, and
oh, and then
then
repeated it in the dialogue. Oh my
in the
god, that is so
dialogue,
annoying.
yeah,
Like, why?
I've
Uh-oh.
seen
They
that
can
so
just
many
say it.
times, and that is hell for me. That is just
Like,
painful.
the redundancy, like anything I
Yeah,
feel like when I'm editing, I edit so hard and what really irritates me when reading other books is when it's clear that they didn't even edit for like redundancy. Like I
Yeah.
already said that. Like that should
Yeah.
be like one of the first things to go because you don't need it. Like you're wasting so many words. You just like killed a tree. Like
Save the trees.
why? Killed a tree in my brain at the same time. I didn't need to read that twice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
There
that
there
is
are healthy kinds of repetition that you need in good writing, absolutely, to keep something fresh, but there are ways
yeah,
to do
an
that, and this is
echo.
not one of them.
Yeah, like I've seen some beautiful echo as like a technique using that. There are definitely times where repetition serves the story,
Mhm.
but this was not one of them.
Yeah. No. And then
But
the other one, the B, I liked that you mentioned it because there are sometimes those attempts at poetic language that just fall a bit flat, you know?
yeah,
In the
so
forest, there are no pigs, no dog.
yeah, like I can handle. So if you're gonna use poetic license on the first page of your book, and this was actually in the first paragraph, I think it was the second sentence.
Oof.
Um, verb and object agreement is not the place to do it
Yeah.
because that is something that's always gonna like register in people's ears. People always like verb and object agreement is just like a natural instinctive grammar thing for people where even if you have no idea what's going on, you read that and you're like something is weird, you know? And so you can't really that early, like, if it was, like, halfway through the book, like, I probably would barely notice it, and, like, I'd already be
The
invested.
author's like, they're this far. I can do
Yeah,
whatever I want now.
exactly. I mean, like, if I'm invested, things like this matter a lot less, but in the first paragraph, it just is a sign to me. It's like an omen of horrible things to come.
Get
Mm.
ready for more, just like this.
Yeah, if you're not, like, getting your verbs to agree with your objects in a and there's plenty of ways to do this where you can still be poetic and also not, like, snag my ears,
Yeah.
but
So
this
is this sentence, the second sentence in the paragraph, is he saying the forest has no pigs or dogs, or is he saying there are no pigs? And he looks and he says no dog. Maybe his dog is thinking there are pigs, but he's no dog. There are no
It's
pigs.
supposed to be there are no pigs and there are no dogs. You
Okay.
know, it's when you've got sort of poetic elliptical sentence, it's hard to say whether they're missing like, they could have done it several different ways. There could be several different words missing from this.
Yeah.
Like,
In this pigless forest, there were no dog.
yeah, like, I mean, it should be no dogs. I mean, like, no
I like
dog.
dog itself is like it represents all dogdom.
Yeah. So, it's kind of an issue of object agreement, but it's also kind of just like maybe they missed the S. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I always change these to keep them anonymous because I don't
Yeah.
wanna get yelled at by people, so I don't remember if it was actually that obvious with, like, dog I
Yeah,
don't think anybody was writing about pigs and
maybe
dogs.
this really is just an error, and they weren't trying to be fancy. Maybe we're giving them too much credit. We thought they were trying to be fancy, but it
Well,
honestly really is just a sentence to error.
if there was an S, then they still are going for the same poetic effect. It's just now there would be the agreement. That'd be fine if it was no
No
dogs,
pig, no
right?
dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah,
be
because
that'd
I
be
can
I can
accept elliptical sentences, I think can be very beautiful, they're very useful, very grammatically correct, and very functional,
I
and we
mean,
yeah.
use them.
if this was in the forest, there were no pigs, no dogs. Period. Next line, no birds, and then new paragraph.
I love
Emphasis
that.
on the no
Yeah.
birds.
Yeah. I
That'd be
will
interesting.
take, like choppy sentences, as long as they're not overdone. If you're not,
Yeah.
like, writing the entire book like that, then, like, a good when you have, like, a poignant scene and I know I did that, I think I forget what chapter it was in Starlight Jewel, when she is with Tarly in the banquet hall.
Okay,
I
yeah,
did a
yeah.
scene like that with, like, a bunch of, like, really tiny short sentences because it created an effect of like stress. Like it
Mm,
creates anxiety in the reader when you have that. And sometimes that's bad, sometimes you don't want that, but sometimes it's actually really useful to the scene.
Yeah.
to have those shorter sentences. Sometimes it's not useful at all. Sometimes it's annoying. Like if people are just doing it, sometimes I feel like there's poetic license and then there's poetic license in the right spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That can be
Often
hard.
when I write, I go poetic, I go fancy. Then I come back later to read it, and I go, okay, stop trying to be fancy. Stop trying to. You're not that clever. Then I cut. And
Yeah.
I had one
Yeah.
paragraph I did the other day that had one of these, and then maybe one or two choppy sentences, and then it had a more flowing kind of metaphor. It was a bit longer. And I looked back at it the next day and I was like, what the hell was I smoking? You know? And then I used some of the same tools the next day and it was fine. And that turned out much better. But you know, like
Mhm.
it's sometimes hit and miss even when you're doing it yourself and you think you
Yeah.
know this stuff. So
Yeah, when I'm feeling like under the weather, like when I'm hungry and when I have allergies, I get really internally dramatic. And I
mm,
notice that in my writing, like I will just be feeling awful. And suddenly all my characters are drama queens.
that's
And I
funny.
and I
Yeah.
come back and read it after eating. And I'm just like, what? That is not even
Yep.
remotely close to how they would be behaving. That is all you, 100% yourself. Just being moody, but yeah, it does, but I do get very poetic when I'm dramatic, so the very fun things to cut.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyways, that was fun. That was yeah. So pen peeves. That was the first ever edition of pen peeves.
I
That went
enjoyed that.
yeah. That was very fun. That went exactly as I would have expected, if not longer. So that was even
You've
better.
been listening to me complain for several years now, so I feel like
Yep.
I do love to complain, but,
It was great.
I'll work on that character flaw later. I have others more important.
I don't know. I mean, that one seems to be working for you. So, you know,
Yeah, it's surprising how few people honestly are upset by my first chapter callings. There are some, there are some.
yeah.
The first year especially, I got some DMs of people who were either just blatantly hated my guts, or were like, "Hey, I appreciate you generally, but I feel like this is kind of mean." And it's like it's anonymous. It's only
Yeah, that's
mean
the
if
thing.
you
You
ask
keep it
for your
anonymous,
number.
right? Yeah.
So. And the amount of people I've helped, I feel like makes it worth it because some people do ask for their number and it's really rewarding because those people they've read all the rest of them, so they know how it's going to be. Those
Yeah.
people really want the help and I've seen people rewrite those first chapters and just seeing the improvement is
Mhm.
amazing. It's just so rewarding for me and makes
Yeah.
the whole project worth it. I've
Yeah.
had 2 people now guess their numbers, so my attempts at making things anonymous are not perfect.
I
Um
feel like it would be hard, you know, that yeah, especially most opening chapters minus the 40-page, prologues are
yeah,
short enough you would recognize your own flaws if they're pointed out to you.
I only mentioned how long that one was after checking that they weren't on Twitter. So, because then I was
Nice.
like, 40 pages is really specific. I feel like this person would know. So I checked, I saw that they weren't on Twitter. I was like, the likeliness of them asking for their number is very low. I think I can just say how ridiculous this is because it was truly just so much.
That's funny. Yeah, that is. Oh man. Well, this was a blast. I mean, the whole thing, not just the pen peeves, but thank you so much for coming on. This, yeah, really,
Yeah.
really first time we're actually getting to chat, so that's great. And yeah, just thank you so much for being guest number 3 or 4. 4. We're on 4 now. We have not been.
I
No,
can't count.
technically 3.
3.
Technically 3. Yeah, yeah. We still have to bring Matt Sorensen back on, but yeah. So
No, Bearded Dark. Bearded
Bearded
Darkness? That's
Darkness.
the
The
match?
guy with the
Okay.
duck
Yeah.
beard.
Yeah, Bearded
There's
Darkness.
multiple beard people, and
Yeah, it's like
it's
the
hard
first.
for me to keep track.
It's
I'm
becoming a
not.
thing now. Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
I
All the book
appreciate all
people.
the beards in the community.
Yeah, but why are we naming ourselves after our beards? Is my question.
See, we've
When
gone
did that
distinct.
become?
We've gone after our caps, and a little bit of a wordplay on all. Yeah, I like what we've done. Yeah, I'll never. I love the beard, but I would never go with it as a
Why is
brand.
it all caps?
All caps? Because I like to speak in all caps.
Oh, that's actually one of my pet peeves.
Never in a book. Never in real life. I talk in all caps.
I always feel like I'm being yelled at, and I've talked about this with Zach Steele. Like whenever I see all caps, even if it's not at me, I feel like somebody's yelling in the room with
In
me.
writing, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I'm just not I'm not a yelling person. I feel like when people are yelling around me, it's time for me to like leave the country.
Fair.
I just, I'm not down for that level of excitement. I like naps, couches,
Naps.
raccoons. I like watching the birds from my window. Yelling is just too high energy of an activity for me. I will do it every once in a while, only when I'm incredibly it's
Yeah.
probably once every 5 years.
Once you get
Fair.
hungry enough.
There's probably some food factors, the dieting I've had to do in the last, 4 years, like, the things that I've had to cut out of my diet, mostly, like, cake and cookies,
Ooh.
For my health and whatnot, because 'cause I'm old now. It does make me a little bit cranky. I love cookies and pie, and I
Yeah,
have no
pie would be the one for
self-control.
me.
Yeah, like, I can't eat a cookie.
Oh.
Like, I have to eat all the cookies. And so I can't have any cookies because I know I can't buy the cookies or else I'll eat all of them.
Yeah,
So, sad
that's
life.
rough.
Getting old sucks.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyways, all that to say, yeah, we went with all caps because of all caps in writing, and also just our I've got whatever you want to call this fedora something, and then Isaac with his awesome old man hats. So
Old man hat.
Oh, I would've wore a hat too if I knew. I don't know that if
next
I
time, next
I don't
time.
have any hats. I'd have to borrow a hat. My boss set this up for me. It looks beautiful. It was just gonna be a TV with a blanket over it. Like, you can kinda see
That's
that
what's
was what I
behind
set
that there.
up.
Yeah, I would never have noticed the blanket till you pointed it out. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yep.
But, he was kind enough to care about my reputation,
That's
so
so good.
appreciate
So it's
that.
just dividers. I actually, my mind just saw closet doors and wouldn't have,
Oh,
I'm so bad. I
no,
would not
that's
have known.
actually a window back there
That's,
that we covered up with the TV, just because we have nowhere to put anything.
yeah. Oh, this is so funny now. Yeah. Like my spatial sense is looking at this.
And
Have
this
been
is
off.
not a table that this pillow is sitting on, it's moving boxes.
There. Yeah. Well, I saw the boxes before. So yeah. That's priceless.
This is a
Oh.
wall.
Oh, you have actual rooms. Isn't that fancy?
It must be. What a life. We're privileged.
My neighbor's like, he's banging on the wall.
You have offices. I have boxes.
Yeah.
Mine looks
Uh,
fancier though. My boss
Yes.
did more with
I
my
like the antlers.
Yeah.
I
Did a
like
really
the
good job.
lights.
Yeah.
I like the little plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did make it look really nice. He's got more visual. He also designed my book covers. He's visually
Nice.
like understands what looks good versus me, and I obviously don't. That's why I live in
Yeah.
like sweatpants.
Yeah, no, I leave all that stuff to my betters. The internal art, the cover, no, I do not trust myself with
Yeah.
most of the aesthetics. And then I mean, this needs a lot of work though. And then that I know this is still a work in progress. I need a
There
new
is
bookshelf.
lovely art back there for both of you guys, though. So there's that. I can't wait to have book art. I'm gonna have a giant Karthak poster on my wall from Daughter
Nice.
of the Beast. I'm just really excited
Mm.
about that because
Are you going to
she's
get a print done, or like a metal plate or anything of the
metal
art,
plate.
the for Ostringer's Wrath, the internal art?
Oh, that art.
Yeah.
So Charlotte Hussey actually does gilded prints,
Ooh.
and I'm hoping she'll be willing to do gilded prints with this, but I'm not sure if she will, or not. I always feel like I'm bothering people when I email them. So I have not emailed her about that yet to ask if she's gonna sell prints or if she wants to.
Fair.
Um, she hasn't like released any other work in so long that I feel like she should, that it would be a good marketing decision for her as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully she releases prints and that way I don't have to like put them on my really cheap looking Printify merch, which is
Okay.
lovely, and I love Ed's art for that. But hers is really fancy. I feel like she should just be selling that. I don't feel like I should make it into my own thing, which is usually redneck. You know, I've got like a glass cutting board with like a raccoon on it, I think. So,
Of course.
I don't think her art is meant for Printify items.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. Oh man. Anywho, well, yeah, look at that. We are closing on 3 hours. It's 2 hours.
Sorry.
No, this was awesome.
Good episode.
This was about as good as it gets. So,
I
oh
love
man,
grammar.
yeah.
So
I mean, you
I got an
know,
excuse to
too.
ramble.
Yeah, I could do this for endless hours. So this was dangerous. We knew what we were getting into, right? I was like,
Yeah, it was good. It was
in the
good.
best possible way. So it's all good.
I'm not the best grammar person, but I know how to pretend I am.
You pull it off.
I
I've read
think
your stuff.
I kept it under control really good compared to what I do on Twitter. I've learned some brevity from Instagram because having to say anything about grammar in like the 30 seconds you get on Instagram is really hard.
Yeah.
I literally can't say anything. And so
That's
I've
fair.
learned how to control myself because when I first started doing those Instagram reels, I actually was recording for like 5 minutes without even knowing it. And then I was like,
Funny.
okay, that can't be posted anywhere. Useless. So I did have to adjust my strategy.
Yeah, whereas Twitter, it was supposed to be the place where everyone learned to be brief, and instead we all discovered threads, or Elon introduced just long form posts, and now it is the exact opposite of where people go for brevity.
Yeah, I definitely am jealous of the blue check marks because you get to write so much without like starting a new thread. But I will
It's
write
great.
a 50 tweet thread, and you have
Yeah.
no idea how many that I've even though I know better, I know I should write them in the notes app and then put them on the Twitter after with copy and paste. But I'll start the Twitter thread and then like Twitter crashes or like somehow I click the wrong
Yes.
button and I lose like 30 grammar thread posts. And then I'm just like, okay, I'm done for the day. For like
Oh.
that grammar
That's happened to me a
topic is
few
never
times.
getting talked about.
Yeah. I think I had that happen once or twice, and that's part of why I do enjoy having the blue check. Now I'm remembering that horror. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least, yeah. Ooh. And now again, I mentioned, I think no, I don't know. Is the AI going to pick me up mentioning this? Because we are live on X, but I think I can probably safely get away with saying that. I did a poll at one point saying, okay, should I just get rid of my blue check? Because I forget what was wrong at the time. I was having issues. I was just like, screw this. And the poll said, oh yeah, get rid of it. And I had promised to abide by it. So I did. And I still have it. And I haven't paid.
You
Like,
just didn't get rid of it. I would keep it forever. Like
oh yeah, I'm not saying. I
free
mean, I said the
promotion
thing here,
and
but
free like word use. Like I can't be limited by these word counters. It's terrible. I feel oppressed, honestly, to have to like limit my words to like what is it, like 200 characters?
it's not a
What
lot.
can
Yeah,
you even
250.
write in that?
250. Yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
awful. So I'm jealous of your free blue check mark.
Yeah. I'm milking it for what it's worth at this point. So.
I feel like I can, beg Elon Musk to have pity on me, show him all my long tweet threads.
I mean, some of them do pretty darn well. So monetization in the future. No, I don't know.
I don't think that many people really want to read a like essay on, resultative adjectives. I feel like that's probably very niche.
A little niche, yeah, or niche. Sorry,
It's
that one's
niche.
still.
It's niche.
It's
It's not the
niche.
niche.
It's so niche.
Like quiche.
That's what.
Niche,
Yeah.
Probably
niche.
the French, man. The French. You quarter French.
Quarter French.
What is it? A Quebecan? Like a what did you say?
You said something
Quebecois. Yeah,
illegal.
Quebecois.
Quebecois.
Yeah.
The French introducing all those words into the English language really made it much more difficult to just like speak English.
That is fair. Yeah. Yeah.
Like all those letters that you just don't say and that you don't pronounce right. And like, why couldn't we have changed the spelling so that they were Englisher? Like, can't niche be spelled with an SH if it's pronounced with an SH?
Yeah.
Can
The
I say
irony
like
is being in Canada, and yet I made the conscious decision to publish my books. I think with like maybe one or two exceptions where I've given myself grace and used Canadian spelling for like one or two words, or like UK Canada. Canada's weird. We borrow anyway, but I publish almost exclusively in US language because I find it more efficient. I like a lot of the spellings more than UK.
yeah, I mean you save paper.
Sorry?
Plus, you save paper using
Mm.
less letters. And, also, I think
Yep.
Webster was just a hero. Like, he is an amazing man, and he did a lot for the English language. And the British would have never solidified their language if it weren't for Webster. Like, their spellings are a reaction. Like, they spelled all the same things multiple ways. And they didn't
That's so cool.
decide until we decided, and they only decided because they didn't like being like us. They just wanted to be different. So, yeah.
We saved the most controversial. Well, it's not even controversial. But anyways, yeah. For the very end, for our UK watchers catching the replay over the weekend.
That's right, UK watchers. You guys spell things wrong.
I never knew so many UK people had so much beef with like US like language.
Oh yeah.
And it puts you on different sides of it. And so I feel like I have gotten like patriotic grammatically, where like my president is Webster. And like I'm defending Webster against the British. I don't know how I
Didn't
got
Webster
into these.
run for president?
I don't think so. I don't know. He did write letters to the president. I've read some of his letters to various
Well,
presidents. that were
anybody
like
can write a
that.
letter to the president.
Yeah, it was
That's
complaining
not
about
that
words.
impressive.
Oh, this is so good.
But
Did the president write back?
I don't know. I didn't see a
Yeah.
response letter, so probably not. I'm sure
'Cause if
whatever
I wrote letters
president.
to the president, and I made a book. These are the letters I wrote to the president, and he never saw them, never wrote back. I could ride that high for decades.
Yeah. I would like to think that a president cared about whatever English thing he was writing about just for my own, comfort. But it probably wasn't as important as whatever was going
What,
on like 100 years ago.
What president did he write to? Do you
I
happen
don't
to
remember.
know?
There were multiple letters to presidents. I remember like this was like something I was looking at somehow came up with Webster's presidential letters where he was trying to get something changed and he felt something was having a big impact on the world. And it probably was not.
Probably not.
But I relate to his enthusiasm.
Yep. 100%. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember which president or
He supported
presidents.
John Quincy Adams. He was in the Senate. He ran for Congress.
Webster?
Webster. He was almost vice president.
Nice. He should have been. He would have made so many practical changes in this world. And he would have probably changed all the French spellings. Croquet would be spelled with an AY on the end, as would crochet. So I feel like he should have been victorious. People were short-sighted. They did not see the impact.
Well, the voters didn't care about the grammar issues on the ballot. Why are you writing croquet?
There we go. Now we've discovered our true life's callings. Going to politics on a platform of better spelling and grammar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what John Quincy Adams was doing. What were even the problems then? We weren't even really a country when John Quincy Adams was the president.
John Quincy Adams, he was worried about the Straits of Madrid.
That sounds completely unimportant.
Those
Madrid isn't even in the
Straits
US.
were all wonky. Maybe we need to send our navy over there and shoot some cannons. We needed cocaine or something.
Sounds
That's
like a
something to do with
waste of
cocaine,
time.
probably.
I guess cocaine probably did help the country a lot. But no.
Oh, good times.
Poor Webster.
That was a good way to end. That was the little history lesson, little grammar. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, why don't we look at that? We are at 2 hours 55 minutes. That's I mean, you're only our technically third guest. It's only our fourth episode.
Yeah.
So we've now set a record. That was
Nice.
probably
You
a good
hold
sign.
the record.
Probably,
I am the least concise person to be on the show. Probably isn't a record that's going to be beat anytime soon.
Probably not. We'll see. But yeah,
Oh
that's
no.
I would
We're
like
gonna
to
have to hear
say
about
my
Quincy
John Quincy Adams facts are 100% true and
Adams.
accurate.
God.
I
Oh
don't know
man.
anything about him. He couldn't have been that important. But I do
saw
feel
the-
like I'm going to learn a lot
He
about
had
him.
the
unfortunately,
sideburns.
now.
Was he the sideburn one?
What? I don't know. You mean like mutton
No,
chops?
that's
I
Van
love mutton
Buren.
chops.
Van
It's my
Buren had
favorite
the big
facial hair.
sideburns.
I don't know what any of them look like. I think I could identify George Washington and Abraham Lincoln by their pictures. And one of the Roosevelts was very large. That's
You mean
like I learned
he's
about
the
his
fat
bathtub.
one? You mean Taft?
Was it Taft who had
That
the
was
big
Taft,
bathtub?
yeah.
Okay,
Taft
never
got
mind.
stuck
It
in
was the Roosevelt.
bathtub.
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about presidents.
As a
Roosevelt
Canadian,
was
this is like
cool.
triply entertaining to me. Just keep going.
Roosevelt lost his second election. He got really depressed, so he got with
Yeah,
his
that sounds
son,
right.
like, let's go explore the Amazon together. And they
Well,
go
that
down
sounds-
this boat, and they almost freaking die. They get malaria. They come back still skeletons, and
Yeah.
they had a great time. They
It sounds like
discovered
a-
new paths through the Amazon, and yeah, Roosevelt got things done. He was crazy.
That sounds very
He would get
important.
depressed and like he would go off and like, I'm gonna go hunt in the mountains for 3 weeks, guys. See you later. He's like, but you're the president. What if we need you? Like,
But weren't there
He
two
goes off.
Roosevelts? Was that
Mhm.
Teddy or Franklin?
Oh,
That was my question. Yeah,
so
which
Teddy,
Roosevelt are we
Teddy
talking
was
about
the
here?
cool one.
Okay.
I think Teddy was the hunting one, right?
Yeah, he had the teddy bear.
And then Franklin.
Franklin Roosevelt. I'm not sure was related to the other Roosevelt.
I
think
feel like he did war stuff. I feel like Franklin
I
Roosevelt
think that
did
guy
war
did
stuff.
war. I think he did some kind of fight. I think people got mad. He had to intervene. Something to do with nukes in Japan and
That sounds pretty
so
accurate.
I think he was before who dropped the nuke? That
Truman?
was Ford. That was Truman.
Truman.
So Roosevelt was before Truman.
Gotcha.
So he did all the preamble stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had
Truman's
too
like,
many
"I'll settle this."
presidents. That's what I'm gathering from
There
this.
seems to have been a lot of
There's
them.
like,
We should just end the story here now. I
and
think
none of them were Webster. Clearly, we made a
None
lot
were
of bad
Webster.
choices
no Websters.
because
Yeah.
we passed Webster over, and that clearly just shows that we're not responsible enough for democracy in this
Our country could have been so different.
It
so
could have
different.
been. We could have had the most amazing spelling system in the world.
We would have taken over Canada if Webster.
Probably.
51st state.
He's like,
Yeah.
he looks at him like, you're spelling things wrong and you're near me. He'd take you out.
No, they would have just wanted to join so that they could spell better. They would have had like the
Maybe.
British pressuring them to spell things like horribly.
Yes.
And so they would have been like,
the
we
grammar
can't handle
wars.
this anymore. And your temperature system doesn't make sense either. So
Cold.
please let us
It's too cold
in.
anyway. I mean,
It is. We were
Canada's-
talking about that before you got here.
Before
Like
you
he
got
was
on,
saying
yeah.
that like 38 degrees is like warm. And
Right
I would,
now, yeah, I think it's actually now we're almost midnight. So I mean,
I
it's
do
2
know
degrees
what you
Celsius
mean.
here. It's probably 35.
I would die.
When I
yeah,
lived in
probably.
Oklahoma, it would get really cold, but sometimes there was that warm cold.
Yeah,
You know
or
what
like
that
a
means?
humid cold, you mean, or
I don't know. I get the humid and the whatever mixed up. I just know if I feel comfortable or not.
Yeah.
Oklahoma was bad because it would get so freaking windy, and that wind chill would bring
It's
you
the
down to
wind.
negative billion, and you feel like you're dying as you're standing there.
I measure
You
how
have to
cold I am
go.
at this point quite literally by whether or not there is ice hanging off my face. Like
Yeah.
if my beard and mustache are just full of ice, that's cold. You know.
It's just not a place that humans are meant to live. I mean,
Clearly.
clearly that is a place for the mooses. And
Mooses, yeah. Well,
they're there.
it got that. I
Bears,
guess like that in
beavers,
Oklahoma. The
raccoons.
weather in
We've got plenty of great
Canada
animals.
trickles all the way down to Oklahoma.
Well, I
It's
mean,
crazy cold. Our cows were walking on the frozen pond, thinking this is neat, falling in and freezing to death. We had to drag them out
Ooh,
with the tractor.
yeah,
It
nothing
was
good comes from
terrible.
Canada. You guys send down your cold and your geese,
It's awful. You geese, yeah, your geese would come
and it's
down.
like
you're knocking our geese now?
illegal to
geese,
shoot the
man.
geese even because they're migratory birds.
Yeah, they
But
don't
like
live
those
here.
geese, goodness, they have attitude problems.
It's
Like
character. It's character.
It was in the 80s.
See, they go down there angry and they come back up here relatively, they're
are they nice when they're in Canada? Are they just cranky because they're hot?
I
It
think
might be.
no one likes to travel. No one
It's
likes
true, I
air
don't like
Yeah,
travel.
they're probably it's probably like because they're all happy when they get. I know some people will tell me stories of having been attacked by them, but
No,
most of
they're
my
mean.
experiences have been like, they're fun. You like
They're not
I've
as
never
bad as swans.
Okay, swans are really vicious. I've seen a grown
That's
man
fair.
running from a swan on a construction site, and it
I
was
read
hysterical.
that a swan can break your arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're huge. They're
Yeah.
big. They're
Yeah,
very
no,
big,
whereas
and they're very mean.
Yeah, whereas geese, I find I don't know. I mean, when I lived along the Rideau Canal here in Ottawa, which speaking of things freezing over, yeah, we skate on that every year when it gets cold enough, and it's one of the longest. I think it is the longest, essentially, ice rink in the world because every year, so that's like a huge tourist attraction here.
It's a freaking
And the
river.
Canadian, like the geese, will line up along it during the spring and summer. And I used to live close enough to just run along. I would go do my running along the canal,
Would
and
you
the
hold
geese would
out
be
your
there, and
hand
they
and
would just.
bump the geese's head as you
I
ran
basically
along?
could. I basically could have. I would usually give them a little room, and they would just kind of watch me go by, and then
Yeah.
they would honk a little. They would swim around. They would come back up.
Yeah.
Never an issue.
They do that little honk, yeah.
Yeah,
They're just cranky travelers,
yeah.
apparently.
They just don't
If
like
you
you
look at
guys.
a Canada goose wrong here, they'll attack you. They hate people.
They look at you
So
and they
funny.
say, "How do you
They just
spell
hate
niche?
Americans.
How do you say niche?"
Ah,
That's so funny to me. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've definitely heard of them being vicious up here too. I've just never experienced it. So I clearly it's just the giant factor.
gooses were.
I scare
Yeah.
them. Yeah, I'm either.
Oh, yeah, you are big. I'm a tiny
He's
person.
massive.
Yeah, that
And they
probably doesn't
just
help.
see me as prey. I'm
Yep.
goose prey.
The goose like, "We're tired of the giants. Let's go pick on a small one."
Now I'm picturing Jurassic Park again. The little dinosaurs. I'm just picturing you getting chased by geese.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much a scene out of
I
that.
have a scar on my leg from a chicken. Fowl do not like me.
Yeah, chickens are bad.
Yeah.
had
It
a
wasn't
rooster.
even a rooster. It was a broody hen.
It was what? Broody
Yeah.
hen got you?
It jumped off somebody's head. It was sitting on her head, and it aerial attacked me.
Oh
my
man.
gosh.
So
We had a rooster attack one of my brothers one time. We ate it.
that's a good solution.
Yeah.
know,
That
I
seems
see
fair.
Problem
lots of people
solved.
trying to solve their chicken and rooster attitude problems with like basically psychology for chickens. And there
What?
is another better way.
You eat
And
them.
it's soup.
Yep. That that's really funny.
It made really good soup.
Yeah. I haven't had rooster soup. I haven't known anybody who's actually kept roosters, but broody hen soup, yes.
Broody hen soup. Yep. I mean, a good chicken soup sounds great to me right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're in frozen wasteland.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is.
I'm
It
in
is
beautiful 90 degrees Miami.
You jerk.
It was really nice today too. I was walking, there was a cool breeze from the ocean,
Oh man.
beautiful
Yeah. No.
sunlight. I was in flip-flops.
I went to Florida once and I was cold when I went there. It was hurricane season and there was so much wind
It
that
does
it was
get cold
actually cold in
sometimes.
Florida.
And
Yeah.
then when it does get cold, I get angry because I would experience cold in Oklahoma where it's in the negative 30s and like if you go outside you'll die. And people like, "Oh, it's 60 degrees here. It's so cold." I'm like, "You babies." But now I'm here in
I'm
Miami
cold right
and it
now.
gets 60 degrees. I'm like, "Oh, it's too cold. Where'd the sun go?"
Yeah.
I was upset about it being cold. Man, it's my only time in Florida, and like a hurricane just came and ruined everything, made everything cold.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
fun vacation. But
Yeah, I mean, that's
anyway,
fair enough.
I probably should go to sleep. It is like 11:35. I have to work in like 3 hours, so
Yeah.
That's a
That
good
was the thing
idea.
I had in mind. I knew you'd essentially do your night shift. I didn't know if that meant you were basically starting now after this, or if you still have to sleep. Oh, I'm so sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna get a couple hours of sleep, and then I'm probably gonna wake up to John Quincy Adams lessons.
Nice.
So that'll
Yeah.
be fun.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So you go and get some sleep, but thank you. You know what? So yeah, let's call this an end stream. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Lyons, for coming on. Everyone, please go buy Starlight Jewel. It's a freaking amazing book.
Oh,
And
thanks.
Check it out.
yeah, my best read of 2024, and so far still 20. You've got some competition.
This
for
is
one
Tim
book, but-
McKay's favorite book he's
which
ever
one is
read.
it?
Starlight Jewel by E.L. Lyons. Nothing else comes close. He's an editor. He edited this book is perfect in every way. It has spriggans in it. It's got prostitutes in it.
Nothing like
Steam,
real
no
spriggans.
spice,
Nothing
just
like
steam.
real prostitutes.
So good. Yeah. So everybody, yeah. So thank you, Lyons, for coming on. And everybody follow her. All the links will be below on YouTube. And for those of you who've joined us on X or watched the replay, thank you so much for checking this out. And give us a follow here on X or on YouTube. Follow us at All Caps Book Chat. And we will see you next